Hey, what's up? Good evening. Useless Fodder here with Blue Drake 42 for Check Your Six podcast. We're going to be talking about his content as an awesome tactical content creator, but mostly talking about Operation Harsh Doorstop, the first game from his newish development studio, Drakeling Labs, and also sort of what it's been like to start up a studio while running a content stream, while also being in a band and being a dad and just like all that stuff combined. So first off, thanks for being here, Blue Drake. I really appreciate it. You've always been really cool to me, and that
You've always
means a
been really
lot.
cool to me, dude.
And that means a
Yeah,
lot to me. So
yeah.
without further ado, why don't you tell us a little bit about where you sort of come from in the content creation space, especially related to like tactical games.
Dude, that's like, what do you? That's a whole saga though. Like, where do you want to?
What was the
How do
first
I
one you
sum that
played?
up? The first game?
The first tactical
Okay.
game you played?
So yeah, let's be real. Everybody knows that I came from Project Reality. That's where I came from. Like Project Reality, it's not the first tactical game ever made, but I definitely think it's the OG project. I mean, because it's not like a game; it's a mod, right? But it's the OG for this whole new genre that has emerged from it. And I think one of the coolest things about being in that community is we all knew it was bigger than what it was at the time. Like I think everybody that was a part of that was like, dude, this is something special. This is like there's nothing is like this. Nobody even knows yet how special this is. And I think it was a really cool experience just being to be a part of that group of people. Not that there wasn't, obviously you got all the clans and communities and everybody there's always controversy and bickering and stuff like that. So not that everybody it was all hunky dory all the time, but I think one of the biggest things that everybody could agree about, no matter how they feel about each other, is like it was a really cool time where everybody felt really passionately about that project and about no matter how you felt about anybody else. It's like Project Reality, it was the mission to get the word out there, to spread the word, to grow that community, and seeing how it started and where everything is now, not just with Project Reality, but everything that's come out of that. And it's like a tree, and then now
Yeah.
there's stuff everywhere. You got big games like Squad, which I think is the first one that comes to everybody's mind, which came out and exploded. And then you've got everything that like shrapnel just coming off that Hell Let Loose, all the other projects and things that are still happening. And now it's really cool to have us get our chance to be a part of that ongoing saga, and to support other projects as well that I think keep carrying that torch to as many corners of the world as is
Yeah.
possible. That's the objective.
I mean, I think it's pretty cool that you're talking about. Well, and obviously we'll talk a little bit more about this later, but like that, like you kind of came from a mod, right? Not you personally, but like
We all did. Everybody
your
did.
content
Yeah.
and everything like that came from a mod, and then you turn around and you're making a game that's like from its very inception, like almost like a mod itself. Like
I
built
think
from the ground up to be moddable, and like
so.
the
First off,
game you're giving is a mod.
I want to say, everything that I've done, and I don't even want to let's be specific. So the game itself, Operation Harsh Doorstop, I try not to say it's my game because it's really not. In the same way that I think one of the coolest things about being a part of the Project Reality community is it wasn't owned by anybody. Nobody, it was just this big collaborative effort from everyone that made that happen. And I think with Operation Harsh Doorstop, that's something that I'm really pushing for as well, where it's not, it's not like, hey, this is Blue Drake's game. And I think as time goes on, there's going to be more and more opportunities for me to make that clear. How we license it, how we have different people. Like, yes, I'm here and I'm getting things started, but eventually there's going to be a lot of other people, not just working on the project now, but going forward, where it's going to be so much. The objective is for it to be so much bigger than me. So it is cool to definitely be the founder of the studio, but I think I try to shy away from saying that it's like my project, because it really isn't. It's all of ours. It's to make something for all of us.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So going back to it, so you started playing Project Reality. How
Mhm.
long were you playing before you started making videos on it?
That's an interesting question. I'm not sure if I really know.
It just sort of
Uh,
naturally progressed
I want to
from
say it was
playing into making them.
somewhat immediate. I don't even remember why or how I got into making videos for it. I think one of the main things where it started was I started hosting servers for the
Hmm.
game. And then we started just posting videos of the game because I would have friends and something really cool would happen the day before. Like there'd be some big operation. And, even back in the day, when there's like a really good Project Reality match, it was even more rare than like now, because now you've got so many content creators and there's like
Hmm.
8,000 people playing squads, so there's like matches every single day that are like. But back in the day when it was still kind of like niche and there's only a few people and everybody gets online at a certain time, there would be like a match and it's like, dude, that was a historic match, and everybody was like, dude, did you record that? Did you record that? Like that would have I want to see what happened. So it kind of got to this point where everybody was like, dude, let's all just have our cameras on. So that way, if there's a sick match, like we have it somewhere. And that was how I started. I was just like, okay, I'm just gonna record this because, it's we've had so many cool matches and all my friends are going to be asking about this tomorrow. I want to show them. So it didn't really start like, oh man, I want to make a career out of this. It was just like, oh, this is so sick and I want to make sure I share this with my friends, which in hindsight, I think makes sense because that is kind of what YouTube is all about. Like when you're going to grow a brand, you don't really necessarily want to grow a brand where the objective is to make money. Like you
Hmm.
want to grow a
Yeah.
brand where the objective is just to do something cool and share something cool. And that's what it started as. It was just like, I want to start sharing stuff. And I think it is kind of interesting because I've been doing this for so long. I think there's different types of content creators.
Hmm.
And I would definitely say I'm a pretty, what's like the right word? I don't know what to say. I don't want to say a non-profit like content creator, but I'm still one of the guys where I started as a gamer and my objective is still kind of to be a gamer. My objective isn't really to be a content creator. My objective is to be a gamer and create communities around games of which content creation has a part in, but my main objective isn't to make videos. In the same way back in the Project Reality days, like I wasn't like, "Oh man, my objective is to make videos." My
Hmm.
objective was to make a dope server. And
Yeah.
then the videos were a way to advertise that server. And I think now the cool thing about Operation Harsh Doorstop, it's like my objectives aren't to make dope videos. My objective is to make Operation Harsh Doorstop, and then like obviously content creation and
Hmm.
videos play into that, but it's just a different mindset, and it's cool to kind of have a, a little bit of a different objective, I think, than your standard video content creator or something like that, and to have like just a slightly different perspective, um, because game making and building those kinds of experiences, I think is what is, and this is a big thing I think we'll talk about today with Operation Harsh Doorstop, building tools like that. Back in the day it was servers, now it's building games, are going to be what is like weaponized by content creators to make content. Like I want to make games and make projects that other content creators can use to do the same thing I did, where it's like make incredible content where you don't even necessarily have to like do a whole bunch of editing. You just get into the game and turn on your camera. Like if
Hmm.
if you can just get into a game and turn on your camera and it's sick and you don't have to edit it at all, that's gold. And I want to build something like that that's accessible to everybody.
Absolutely. And I think that in a lot of ways you've led the content creation space as a thought leader, we'll say, in that mindset, because I'm starting to see it with other folks. Really, I've tried to jump on this trend myself, to be honest, but with like Karma Cut, you see Karma Cut is like, he did the Arma server thing. He's like, how can we push Arma farther than anyone else has done it,
Right.
utilizing the resources he has? And then he's like, well,
Exactly.
these other games came out, and every time a game comes out, he's like, wait, we can make a mod. I have
Yeah.
enough people who are around me who know how to do it. We can make a mod that's exactly what. And I think
Yeah.
Insurgency Sandstorm. He did like all these other games where he's like, hey, how can we take this and try to make the thing that I want to make? And I feel like in a lot of ways, your content, like I call you a tactical content creator, but like your content is almost always, at least as long as I've been following you, follow the trajectory of like interesting new concepts for games and interesting new games that are coming out. Obviously,
Yeah.
you've always had a background of like you did PR, you did squad, you've done stuff like that, but like the vast majority of your videos aren't that. They're, hey, check out this cool game I found, or hey,
Right.
have you heard of this thing, or I think this might blow up, or this,
Yeah.
and I
It's
think
about the thing, not like the production value around the video of the thing. Like if I'm at a point where I'm like, having like text and like cool camera shots in order to keep your attention, I'm doing something wrong. Whatever I'm talking about in the video should be so cool and cutting edge by itself with no production value at all that's what should keep you engaged. And I think, yeah, that's a big part of like my mentality. And I think when you look at Karmakut, back when he first started getting into content creation, and I met him when he was just starting his career in Squad, I think that was a big aspect of why we got along so well, because he had such a very similar vision. And when I started my career with Project Reality, and there's like nobody else kind of doing that. There was people recording videos and stuff like that, but they weren't doing that in addition to like building the kind of community and the influencer like branding and stuff like we did to the same degree. Finding people like Karmakut and him building his own brand, it's really, really cool because now there's so many other people that have a similar mindset to me that are also out there building their own projects, building their own communities. I think that's another thing of why we really wanted to build Operation Harsh Doorstop, because now it's not just me. Operation Harsh Doorstop isn't going to just be a super useful project for me to continue making content. Now it's going to be super useful for all of these other people that have built their brands and built their communities that are very similar to mine. So in some ways, I would say that Operation Harsh Doorstop is only possible now because there are so many people like yourself and like Karmakut and everybody like just everywhere. So again, another reason why it's such a huge communal effort. And I think that's also going to be our mentality forever. That I think is going to separate us a lot from what people would maybe perceive as our competition. I don't really see them as competition, but for instance, Insurgency Sandstorm, right? Like, what's their objective? Their objective is to sell copies of the game. Like that's their objective, is just to sell copies of their game. The interesting thing about us is that's not our objective. Like, our objective is not to say, hey, we want game sales. Our objective is like, we want to make a platform that everybody can use to then build their own businesses, mine included. And because we have such a completely different business model, I think that's something that people are going to see is going to drastically shape how we make this game and also what this game turns into long term. And it's going to be, hopefully, if we do our job right, way more useful to people than I think a lot of other games have been like built to be.
And it was funny because as you're talking about the concepts for kind of where you came from and how you've kind of always been a content creator that's about sort of building communities or being interested in the game, both mechanics wise, but also like in like a more of a metaphorical sense of like a game as like a community and bringing and trying to make cool opportunities for people. I feel like I think you and I are a similar age, right? You're in your late 20s, early 30s.
I'm 31. Yeah.
30,
yeah,
okay,
yeah.
yeah. And I think that
I'm 25, dude. What are you talking
25
about?
for the seventh time. Let's go, boy.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think that that concept of what it used to be back, like going even back to like Counter-Strike days and stuff like that, where like there was no concept of like not being in a community. Like when you had to join a server, and usually you'd find a server you like and you play with the same people over and over.
Right.
And that was true of almost all games. Like there's very few matchmaking things that existed. It was like, how do you build that experience, and then you get to know people, and of course by the very nature of just doing stuff, especially in teamwork games, you just build rapport and camaraderie and you might get to know them. I think that's what underscores overall
to expound on that topic as well. I think the one thing I can say, I think the removal of that from like AAA games is ultimately going to be their downfall.
Mhm.
I think there's a lot of games out there that were like, hey, let's, remove the entire community aspect of this so that way we can control everything. And
Mhm.
it's like if we have matchmaking, and there are no servers and there is no middleman and it's like just us and we own all of it, I think that was really attractive to them back in the day, probably because they could monetize it more easily and control the player base more easily. But I think ultimately it's going to be what makes our project more powerful and makes them less attractive over time. Because if you have a game and there is no like sub communities within, and it's just, for instance, like Rainbow Six Siege and stuff like that, it's like there's no Siege servers that you can join. There's no group. It's like, it's almost kind of like a giant. If Rainbow Six Siege is a community, it's like a big blob. It doesn't have the same kind of diversity and like complexity of something, even like Squad, that
Mhm.
has like a way lower player base, but like everybody rallies around all of these different types of servers
I
and
see how
all
you
of
said
these.
rally there. I heard it.
Right, I know. So you get
Gotcha.
the lingo.
Gazinga.
But I think that is something that AAA studios didn't realize is as much of a feature as it really is for these games. Like I think Battlefield Portal was them kind of starting to
Like a flailing
realize.
effort.
It's like, oh man, maybe there is something there. But the problem is that now I think the Battlefield franchise, well, not like whoever is involved, and I'm sure there's a whole huge bunch of people that are involved in making the decisions for Battlefield, whoever is on that board, team, whatever, I think they are so entrenched in the direction that Battlefield is in right now, which has nothing to do with Battlefield Portal. Even the few attempts that they have, that whoever is in EA that's trying to sound the alarm, and it's like, yo, we should really be focusing on Portal. It is obviously not having enough of an impact for them to focus on things like Portal in the way that they need to be for that to be effective. Because Portal was a great idea if that was their main focus, but it's kind of like a little side gig, and it really shouldn't be. Stuff like that should be the main features of games going forward. I really think, and I think everybody's starting to realize that more and more when you look at things like Roblox, when you look at things even like Arma, and you look at how modifiable they are, and you look how accessible they are, and how user generated content has this big impact on creating complexity in the social dynamic of the game, which inspires more loyalty to the product, and being able to use the product to build your own businesses. Like, you look at Operator Drewski and how he's built like his whole career on Arma. You look at Karmakut and how he's built his whole career on Squad. But with Battlefield, unless they're coming out with a new Battlefield game you'll notice the Battlefield creators, they come out when there's a new Battlefield game and they all get sponsored to cover it.
Mhm.
And then as soon as it's out for the first, they all move on. There's no, it's the community isn't nearly as strong. And I think that hopefully with our project, that's something that we can really capitalize on, because I think that's a value that we very specifically recognize. And our objective is not going to be like, hey, we're going to make this shooter game, but it's going to have some kind of like mod features on the side.
Mhm.
It's like we're making like a mod platform that has like shooter mechanics on the
That,
side.
that
Like
that has
it's
one instance of the
completely,
game in it.
yeah, like that. It's a completely shifted mentality. Not to say that the shooting mechanics aren't like. I think some people get confused because they see it and they're like, well, the shooting mechanics are really good and it looks really close to Insurgency Sandstorm. Like, I don't really get it. And it's like, I don't think you realize that. Just, yeah, we have put a lot of effort into making the shooting mechanics like really good, but our pitch is not that this game is like gonna be good because it's a tactical shooter. Completely different mentality that I think is going to become more clear to people over time. Um, that this game is going to have a completely different perspective that is going to ultimately be what makes it valuable, and that's going to be the ability for it to serve as a not just a mod platform, but like a server hosting platform and making it free. I think some people are like, oh,
Free. He said free, guys. Free.
But seriously, the thing about making it free, and I think that people maybe misunderstand this as well. There is no other option. And when I say that, it's not because like, oh, I want it to be free to play with microtransactions or anything like that.
Which is what everyone assumes, right? When you say free, they hear free to play, meaning I'm gonna
other thing. Again,
microtransaction you to death.
Completely different mentality that I think people are still slowly starting to recognize. The only way this vision works is if this is free. It's not like, hey, I'm making this free because I want to encourage you to like play it more, or like because I want to compete with somebody else by making it for free. It's like, for this vision to work, for this product to do what it needs to do, it needs to be as open and as accessible as possible, with as few strings attached as physically possible. Because I want people to be like, hey, I'm thinking about making a new game in Unreal Engine 4. And it's like, why not start in OHD? You know, and they're going to be like, well, how much is it? $40? No, it's not.
No.
It's nothing. And then it's just going to get to the point where it's like, well, shit, why won't I just do it in OHD? That's easier. It's just easier, and that way, I want to get it to a point where it's like, hey, I made this new map. Can you guys try out my map? Well, how do I try out your map? Oh, just download OHD. Oh, well, I don't have $30. No, it's free. You don't have to pay anything. And then they're going to be like, oh, okay. That whole dynamic is critical to us making this game more of like a tool than like a game. Look at Audible. Do you think Audible would work if it was, even $5? Like it wouldn't. Look at, I don't know, what's other OBS. Do you think OBS would be like nearly as successful if you had to pay $10 to download? No, it wouldn't. Like, and anything that you would have to spend, like, what's a paid alternative to like OBS? What, XSplit?
XSplit, yeah.
Who the hell uses XSplit?
Professional broadcasters that work for like news organizations.
No, they use OBS too. Everybody uses OBS. If they say they use XSplit, they're lying. And that's the same thing here. It's not like we want to make a game that's free in order to like, I don't know, like as a marketing gimmick. It's because that's the only option for something like this. That is what it is. It's a free tool. It's a free platform. It's a place where the value is what you put into it. So yeah.
Yeah. So okay.
That's that whole tangent.
So we talked. So we talked about PR. I have a small script that I'm kind of going through. We talked about PR and where.
Oh yeah.
And you came from that. Obviously, for people who don't know, Project Reality was a modification for Battlefield 2, as I recall. Originally, that's the PR when everyone talks about it. That was one of the first realistic games that wasn't Arma, I guess is a good way to say it. The first realistic games that wasn't and it wasn't even Arma back then.
And that was back when Arma 2 was the only option as well.
Yeah, and so, obviously there's a lot of issues with getting into Arma versus something like Project Reality, where you could download this mod and just hop into a server and start playing and figure out the game as you went.
Arma still, to this day, I can't just log into Arma and find like an AAS match.
Yep.
Like I can't. Like I'm sure it's in there. But back in the day when Project Reality was around, it wasn't like, oh, you could play Arma or you could play Project Reality. It's like, if you want like the fob construction mechanics and like the advanced and secure game, and everything that makes Project Reality so special, there's no other option. Not even Arma. Like, yes, you could custom program it into Arma if you're a genius, and some people tried to do that, but it doesn't even work as well in Arma as it does in Battlefield 2, or in this case, ever since Squad, as it does in UE4 as well.
Yeah. Okay, so you made the jump from PR to Squad, if I recall. Around the time that Squad came out, you were one of the first featured guys, weren't you, for Squad?
Yeah. That's a little bit. That's kind of an interesting topic as well, because like I said, it's a whole saga.
Yeah.
Right? So there's lots
I've been there for those 1 a.m. talks in the Discord where you went through the long history of everything.
Yeah, I think the Squad situation, and especially because keep in mind, Squad was not meant. And this is coming from somebody who was in the Project Reality community at the time. there was a time when Squad even existing was fairly controversial
Mm-hmm.
because the Project Reality team was actually working on Project Reality 2.
Mm-hmm.
And Project Reality 2 was stalling. And essentially what happened is there was a breakaway component of people that started working on Squad. And there was even a time when they were kind of in negotiations and they were wondering if it would make sense to call Squad Project Reality 2. But there already was a Project Reality 2, but it was just, failing. So Squad kind of ultimately ended up being a standalone project that on paper has no real affiliation to
Mm-hmm.
Project Reality other than the fact that there are some developers that are shared from the Project Reality team. But the irony in that is that there are lots of other studios that share developers with the Project Reality team. I mean, hell, let loose. I mean, we have developers from the
Mm-hmm.
Project Reality. There's lots of, because again, I mean, Project Reality community developed project that is like hundreds if not thousands of people that have passed through that studio that have gone on to do all sorts of other games. So I think when Squad first came out, obviously it was one of the first projects that I was really focused on covering. But I think there was a little bit of tension there because it was also around the same time that I was experimenting with building my own development
Mm-hmm.
team, and I was also simultaneously working with a whole bunch of other studios that were, for instance, Hell Let Loose, which came out much later,
Yep.
but a whole bunch of other studios that were working on like identical things that Squad were working on. So I wouldn't say that it's not like I started as a Project Reality like YouTuber and then I became a Squad
Mm-hmm.
YouTuber. I started as a Project Reality YouTuber, and then after that, that's when the tree from Project Reality started, and now
Mm-hmm.
there's all of these things. And I'm no single. I mean, I guess here soon I'll probably be more of an OHD YouTuber than
Yeah.
anything. But even when that happens, I'm still going to be covering all of these other projects, and I'm going to be, because it's important, I think, to not just pigeonhole yourself into just playing one game,
Mm-hmm.
even if it's your own game, or like
Yeah.
whatever. Like it's not so maintaining relationships across the board with all of these different studios, it's important. So there's a lot of complexity there with like how Squad started and everything. And even now, like what it's gone on to be,
Mm-hmm.
to kind of sum it up in any real simple way. Like you just can't sum up any of
Yeah.
these
Yeah.
things
Absolutely.
simplistically.
So
It's
I
very
guess
difficult.
the next question I was going to ask is, when can you point to a time when you sort of made the decision that put you on the path to where you're at now, where you have a game that's very nearly coming to fruition? Is it like, where would you say is the
There's
beginning?
no
Okay,
point.
when did you start when did you say the genesis of OHD is, and by extension Drakeling Labs?
What's the genesis of Squad? I think not only is there no point that think I can point to, I don't think there should be, because none of this stuff is binary,
Mm-hmm.
and it'll continue to not be binary as well. Like it's all a spectrum. So this is actually something I was gonna talk about before, where we were talking about how Project Reality is a mod, and you were like, well, OHD is like, it's also kind of like a mod. And that's actually something the world of modding and the world of game development is almost so identical
Mm-hmm.
that it kind of defies even being separated. Like it doesn't even really make sense. Like what is a mod? What is a game like engine? It is such a gradient spectrum between those two things. There's no way that you can uh, divide them at all. And I think it also is the same thing when it goes into like getting into game development. And I like to say, again, everybody really is a game developer in the same way that everybody is a musician, right? Like everybody's a musician. Are they a good musician? Not necessarily. Same. Everybody's a game
Why are you
developer.
talking about me like that?
Are they good game developers? Not necessarily. I don't know. I haven't. If you do play music, we should
I
talk
don't.
about that
No,
sometime.
no,
Oh
I
well, then
don't.
okay.
I sing. I
But
sing
you
to my
are.
kids. I sing to my
If
kids. That's the
then
best.
you're a
Yeah,
musician.
exactly. That's the
Then you
closest I am.
are. You make music, and that's actually a really important thing, because I think if we try to divide what is game development and what isn't game development, it's just going to create drama and
Yep.
chaos because you can't. So one of the first things I can even think of that was maybe development related that we did, although I think there's even more things that are probably more subtle. We started Drakeling Labs was at, in fact, oh my god, the lead engineer for OHD, he actually was one of the people that was building the Project Reality servers with me like 7 years ago, like a gross amount of time. Like he started his bachelor's in computer science and graduated to come work with us throughout the entire time of us knowing each other. Like it's so, like I said, Operation Heartstorm, it's not my game. It's like the only reason it's even possible is because we have so many people that started their journeys so long ago, and we all know each other. But one of the first things that we started in game development where Drakeling Labs was even started at all. And the reason we called it Drakeling Labs is because we were like, well, let's just start fucking around. Like that's how it all started.
It's a laboratory.
We started making custom maps for our Project Reality server. So that was what we did. In fact, way back in the day, I don't know if you can even find it, but we made there was no auto updater for Project Reality. Now there is. Because they can't go on Steam, unfortunately, because it's still legally a mod, even though it's standalone. But there's still a lot of restrictions because it's based on a lot of the Battlefield 2 engine stuff, so they can't be as flexible with it as normal. But yeah, back in the day, we actually created our own updater. And this was the whole pitch. I'm sure there's a video I could show you where I advertised it like 7 years ago. But I was like, hey, if you guys want, we're going to be doing this special event on Sunday. And it has a whole bunch of custom maps that we've made ourselves that are exclusive to our server. And if you want to download them, download this executable that our lead engineer for OHD made like way 7 years ago. And it'll automatically download all of the maps. And then you can come and join and play our server. So that was like the first. And I think what we did is Project Reality obviously has all of its custom maps. But I think we started really simply. So we just we took a bunch of the vanilla Battlefield 2 maps and like updated them to the latest version of Project Reality because there was no versions of the Battlefield 2 maps so we just went in and we're like, oh, well, let's add in a bunch of BTRs and a bunch of AAS objectives and everything and get those. So that's kind of maybe where my game development journey started. Possibly, maybe, I don't really know.
That might be the one. Who knows?
But there's so many other things. I mean, if you were to even look on one of the first videos that I ever made was me making videos of a Half-Life mod where I basically, I don't know if you know what SMod is. You know what SMod? So SMod. I went in and I started making a whole bunch of custom patches for SMod where I would go in there and I would make my own configurations where, I would adjust all of the different, damage. Because SMod, it was fun, but it wasn't like tactical in the way that I wanted it to be. And it also didn't have like a bunch of the weapons that I wanted it to have. So I went in and I actually started, porting in my own weapons, and stuff like that and like adding a whole bunch of stuff. Is that game development? I mean, I don't know. Is it mod development? I maybe, no, yes. It doesn't matter. It defies categorization. And even now, when you look at Operation Harsh Doorstop, the cool thing is you can go download the SDK and an Unreal Engine 4 SDK. I don't know if people know this. It's literally just Unreal Engine, which is really nice because there's a lot of games out there that put out a modding SDK, but it's a completely different system. Yeah. It's a completely like they'll be like, we have mod support, and then they put out the mod support tools, but the mod support tools are like a completely different system than what the actual developers use to develop the game. The cool thing about Operation Harsh Doorstop is like when you download the SDK, it's literally Unreal Engine 4. And when you're adding in like features and maps and weapons and adjusting all of that stuff, it's not like you're utilizing some special tool that we've made. Like, you know what? Battlefield Portal is an excellent example of this. People are like, oh, Portal has mod support. No, it doesn't. No, it does not. Do you have a version of Frostbite on your computer where you can get in there and like granularly edit things and like build it using the exact? No, you can't. It's a pre-built interface where you can kind of like customize variables that the developers have let you customize. The cool thing about OHD is when you download the SDK, you're downloading like the modding SDK, you're downloading the Unreal Engine 4 project, the same exact interface, the same exact system that our own developers utilize to make the game. And that's a big aspect of this that I think people still, I mean, they haven't really fully realized yet, but they're going to continue to realize. And even games like Insurgency Sandstorm, which is an Unreal Engine 4, which is a shame, they've actually, and this kind of infuriates me, honestly, because this is the kind of stuff, this is like why I started OHD, because Insurgency Sandstorm, they have the option to do exactly what we're doing. They can put out an SDK where it's open and you can do, but some of these studios will put out an SDK, and in the case of Unreal Engine 4, where by default Unreal Engine 4 is kind of like when you put out an SDK, it's more open.
Yep.
Some of these studios will actually go out of their way to take away features,
like lock
from
it
the
down,
SDK,
yeah.
to lock it down. And it's like you had the option to make it open, and now not only are you not making it as open, you're actually going out of your way to close it off more. And it's like that is the problem. Whereas with us, there's things in the OHD SDK that aren't as open as we want them to be, and it's because of some kind of like hard-coded thing. Like for instance, like there's some things legally in Unreal Engine that we actually can't open up because Epic Games actually has part of Unreal Engine that, you know, you can still get access to it, but you have to like register with them and like then download and we're actually trying to work with them to find ways to open it up even further. And I think it's just a complete mentality shift where you have one class of development that are trying to lock things down and suppress that creativity, and then you have us trying to push in the opposite direction. And I think, again, going back to your original question about like what is game development, what isn't game development, it's all a spectrum. If you're making mods in the Insurgency Sandstorm SDK, like you're basically a game developer. Yes, it's a mod for Insurgency Sandstorm, but you're using Unreal Engine 4, maybe a super locked down version of Unreal Engine 4, which sucks and that's lame, but you're still making content. And then with OHD, if you're making mods and stuff like that, as far as I'm concerned, that's game development. I mean, heck, even if you're in Gary's mod and you're just like editing text files and a configuration thing, like that's I pay people to do that for OHD, like Gooms and Blacksite and all of them. Like they don't know as much about game as, you know, programming and blueprint code and stuff like that as some of our more senior developers that specialize in much higher tier services or creative work or anything like that. But they still have basic understanding of Unreal Engine 4. They can go in there and adjust values and stuff like that. That's still valuable game development work. And we'll pay them, and we'll like, hey, please go in there, balance all the weapons, get all of the HP. So even if you're in Gary's mod and you're just editing text files and stuff like that, like it's all the same
Gooms
thing.
is rioting in chat, by the way.
Oh, is he?
He says, I'm a developer. What are you talking about? He says it on my roll tag.
Well, we joke about that all the time because that's the point. That's why that's funny, right? Because people will be like, well, I'm not a game developer. And then I'll like boot up MS Paint and like draw a circle and be like, what about now? Am I a game developer? And they're like, but it's not in the game. And so then you save the image from MS Paint and then like upload it into like a shitty Java or like HTML5 game, be like, am I a game developer now? And it's like, well, technically, yes. It's like, technically, oh, make a goddamn board game, you're a fucking game developer, you know? Like, shit. Like, it's all, that's the thing. So, we joke about that all the time, because, like, everything is game development if you're going to try. And the gatekeeping mentality and how gatekeeping is utilized in order to, like, suppress people's creativity is it's a goddamn plague and that's something that I think we really try to fight against, because you'll have studios and they're like, for instance, when the EA executive a long time ago, when the community was like, hey, why aren't there mod tools for Battlefield 3? There's mod tools for Battlefield 2. Why didn't you guys release mod tools for Battlefield 3? And I think the official answer, you need to go find the article because I don't know what the exact words were, but it basically was like, Frostbite's too complicated and you guys aren't smart enough to use the game development tools, and that's the reason we're not going to release the mod tools, because you guys just aren't as good. Like, you're not as smart as you guys aren't game developers. And it's like, motherfucker, these people are doing the people in your community are probably doing more cutting edge shit than a big percentage of the people that are at EA right now. So like having this gatekeeper mentality where it's like, oh, you're a modder? Well, then you're not a game developer. Fuck that. Yes, you are. And I have seen Project Reality is one of them. You look at Squad, that started as a mod. And I think that's something that. What are you doing?
It's a doggo. Is doggo in the background?
I don't know. He's
Freaking
just like, what are you doing? Anyways, he's making weird noises. But that's something that I think that is something that not only do we kind of perceive as problematic, I think we're actively aggressive against that mentality. So like if there's anybody that ever, and I think that's also why maybe some people would say that like we're abrasive, or because there's definitely
No way.
we get into it with some
What?
people, but the problem is the people that I get into it with, I want to get into it with, because one of the things that I think we get a reputation for is if there's somebody that says something like, oh, well, you guys aren't game developers, so we're not, like you shouldn't look at this, or you shouldn't even try to do this.
Here's the exact quote, by the way. Here's the exact quote. Because if you look at the Frostbite engine and how complex it is, it's gonna be very difficult for people to mod the game because of the nature of the setup, the levels, of the destruction, all those things. It's quite tricky. So we think it's gonna be too big of a challenge for people to make a mod. Oh my God, can you be more? Can you talk down to people when you have people who spend literally tens of thousands of hours to mod your game for free of their own hard time? It's too difficult. As if professional gamer or professional game developers don't make mods. Yeah, right. They do too,
And I think that's part of like it's not just our mentality, it's almost kind of like our mission. It's almost like our operating, I don't know, statement, whatever. We're not just kind of against gatekeeping, like we're aggressive against it. So it's like if you say, oh, you're not smart enough to do this, it's like, then that's exactly what I'm going to do. And it's like, oh, well, we're not going to give you access to this because you're not good enough. And I'm going to be like, then that's exactly what I'm going to get access to. When we started the Operation Harsh Doorstop project, there was a lot of that was said, not just from, big, but there are even other reputable studios that were like, oh, those guys are trying to start.
He just makes videos. What does he know about making video games?
Videos, and they don't even realize. I think another thing about this, like I said at the beginning, Operation Harsh Doorstop, it's not just me, right? Like it's not just me working on this game. So I think another thing that's really dismissive when people are like, oh, they can't make a game, and it's like, dude, we got people here that have. Yes, we all play video games together. Yes, we all played Project Reality, but like we're all people. We all have careers outside of this, and we have a lot of people that we work with that have been a part of, not just our community, but your community, like, I don't know, Battlefield community, gaming community. These people are getting degrees in computer science. These people are going on, like, it's not like, oh, if you play Battlefield, you're just an idiot. And if you're a developer for Battlefield, you're just like this fucking god.
Yeah, you're up on a pedestal.
Like, exactly. It's like there's not a separation here. Like, some of the people that are in your community are smarter than you. Like, not like, oh, okay, they're not as good as me, but like they're still no, it's like there are people that are playing these games that can make a better game than you. And I think a big aspect of all of this is kind of wanting to prove that, and also wanting to break that stigma where players can't be creators and can't be developers. We want to break that. We want to say, look, we are all the same. We are all the same. We have the same capabilities. We have the same. We have differing mentalities, sure, but like we're all people. We all have brains. We all have careers. We're all, fathers and developers. And some of us, maybe some of us are better developers than others, but it has nothing to do with whether you're a developer of Project A or Project B, or whether you play Battlefield or you don't play Battlefield. Like, there's a whole spectrum of people here. And I think whenever you have a studio that is going out of their way to close people off and to marginalize people and to kind of put people into a box so they can monetize them and to kind of keep them controlled, so that way it's like, hey, play our game, keep our concurrent rates high, but don't complain that the game sucks and don't try to do anything different with it than what we tell you to do. That's unacceptable. It's unacceptable. And that's something that we don't just disagree with. We will actively fight to undermine, to build products that undermine that mentality entirely. Because that was one of the first things that I did. I saw a lot of these studios that were doing this stuff where it's like, they put out this awesome game, but then they put out tools that are all locked down, or they don't put out tools at all.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, if they're not going to do that, then I'm going to undermine their ability to do that by just making the exact same game and then doing all of the things that they should have done. Because you look at Venice Unleashed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Venice Unleashed, which again, an incredible project made by incredibly intelligent people working uphill against EA intentionally making Battlefield 3 unmoddable. That was the whole quote that you just read, where it's like, oh, they're not. And they did it anyways.
Mm-hmm.
Venice Unleashed is a project by the community where they implemented mod support. And then, obviously, one of the first, or actually, you know what? Grand Theft Auto 5 is another good example. Look at 5M. The community came together. They made 5M is now, like, one of the biggest, like, highest played projects, like, of all time, actually.
In any
like,
game.
It's not like, oh, big for a mod. It's like, I think it's even bigger than Grand Theft Auto 5 itself.
I definitely think so, yeah.
It's stupid how popular 5M is. And what was one of the first things that the developers of Grand Theft Auto 5 did?
Try to shut it down.
They tried to shut it down. They tried to sue the shit out of them. So I think when a lot of people say, hey, your game is so similar to Squad, hey, your game is so similar to Battlefield, or hey, your game is so similar to XYZ, whatever game, the answer to that is we know. We know it is. And one of the reasons that we're making this out, because if I were to take Battlefield right now, Battlefield 2042, and create the equivalent of Operation Harsh Doorstop, like where we create the SDK and all these mods, the first thing EA will do is sue the shit out of me.
Mm-hmm.
Hell, I mean, some people might try to sue us anyways because they're so mad about this and they want to shut. But one of the reasons we decided with Operation Harsh Doorstop to make it so completely outside the system was so we could do all of the things that I'm talking to you about legally. Because we know that people don't want this to exist. We know that there are people out there that don't want a free tactical shooter on the market because it fucks with their bottom line.
Especially one that doesn't look like a Roblox or something like that. Something that looks like their game.
There's a lot of people out there that don't want an open SDK for a free game, because then you have all of these content creators making content for a free game instead of making content for like their $40 game. That's another thing that I think has really frustrated me is there are some studios, they'll put out a modding SDK, but and they'll make the modding SDK super limited, but then they'll try to get everybody excited about making content for it. But the problem is that in that situation, there are some mods that people make that take off and get really, really successful on a project. I don't want to use any specific examples. I don't want to make any accusations here. I think we all know this happens, but I don't want to point out any specific studio that does this, but a lot of them do, where you'll have a mod that blows up on a game and then that game's sales skyrocket because of that mod. Now that modder makes nothing. They get no cut from that. But now you have all of these studios that are like, okay, we'll put out a very limited version of mod support just because we know that you guys might make us a lot of money if you do free development work.
We'll do the absolute minimum.
We'll do the absolute minimum.
It's like
to
playing.
Get free labor.
It's
right?
like
and
a gamble, right? They're just putting a little bit of money, a little bit of time into it. Maybe they'll hit the jackpot, but who cares? Half of them are gonna be laid off after the development anyway. So it's like
right, and that's ridiculous because you'll have these situations where they'll put out a modding SDK and then they'll put out like big things where it's like, hey, we're gonna have this prize, like to give to modders that create content for our game, and then simultaneously lay off all of their actual in-house developers. And it's like, but you're putting up prizes to try and incentivize people to do free labor. Like, where's that prize money coming from? It's obviously not going to the people that made your game. So another reason why I wanted to make Operation Harsh Doorstop free, like we wanted to get to a point where it's like, look, if you're gonna make a mod for Operation Harsh Doorstop, I don't want to make a dime off of that. I don't want to make a dime because I think, even though not a lot of modders bring that up right now, there's not, because modders are saints for the most part, and they're not usually interested in the money. So they'll be like, oh, well, I don't care. I just make mods for X $40 game because I love it, right? Even though they don't know that they're kind of playing into a system that's exploiting them, whatever. They don't care. But I think long term, I think it is going to become more of an issue because I think they are going to start becoming more aware of how they're getting exploited, and that's going to make them less interested in creating content. So one of the reasons I wanted to make OHD free is so that way they can make their mod and they don't have to feel bad about putting up content for other people to enjoy because they're not going to be being monetized. In a way of like incentivizing direct sales and stuff like that. In fact, furthermore, it would be really cool if this is something we've been talking about internally, getting to a point where we can even make it so the modders have ways to make money, not selling their mods, but even doing some basic stuff like having a donation link or something like that, like on their mod pages,
run a Patreon or something.
Like literally the bare goddamn minimum, and like none of these studios are doing any of this stuff. It's so weird because places like Twitch, I think, are really, really good at like, because Twitch is like a free model, right? Like nobody has.
I'm not
to pay
paying Twitch anything right now.
Right. Nobody has to pay to watch your content. It's all voluntary, right? And I think Twitch has put a lot of work and effort into creating a system where people can get free content but still like make it worth your while. But you look at the modding scene and how there's been literally none of that, where it's like there's no systems that have been put in play, even though there absolutely could be. And it doesn't even mean that you have to sell mods or anything, because I know that people think that that's controversial. You wouldn't even have to sell the mods in order to just implement features to help support the mod creators, and they won't fucking do it. They won't do it. It's gross. It's gross. So all sorts of things that I would love to flip the table on.
So let's. I realized that I probably should have talked about this about maybe 20 minutes ago. Let's for those that are still watching and have been like, this guy's going off about this game and maybe don't know a ton about OHD. Can you give us the elevator pitch of what OHD is? Operation Harsh Doorstop, that is, not OHD.
I should probably prepare this more because unfortunately I think Operation Harsh Doorstop is one of those things where I think people are gonna figure out, like, what's the elevator pitch on Arma, right? Like, how do you sum up Arma?
I mean, I could probably do it, but yeah, I'd say how do you?
But you could be like, oh, Arma, it's a realistic tactical shooter, but does that really explain like the value of Arma?
I'll try. Let me give it a go for OHD.
Sure.
From what I know.
I would love to.
Okay, so for those who don't know what OHD is. Operation Harsh Doorstop is both a game and a platform for games that's based from the very get-go of being able to support tactical, realistic shooters while not shutting things down so much that you can't make other games in it. It's based on UE4 platform and allows people for free to download both the actual just game OHD, but then also the SDK to create your own games and your own mods in it for free.
Yes. It's like the Gary's mod of tactical shooters, right? I would say something like that. I would even say, hopefully, eventually, again, Arma has a massive head start on us with 20 years now of development. So I would love to say
21
that it's
actually.
It's kind of like free Arma in UE4, but unfortunately we haven't even started being able to compete with the feature set that Arma has. But I'm hoping if you look at Project Reality, I think it's already over 10 years of development. It's coming close if it's not already there. But no, it absolutely is because my forum account's from 2009. So yeah, that's way over.
Yeah.
Yeah, 10 years. Project Reality, when it started, super simple feature base, like basically nothing. It was basically Battlefield 2, but with like more damage. And now you play it, it's like so much.
It's got all the features.
We're hoping that we're going to have a similar kind of like progression
Mm-hmm.
where, and I think people can even see if you follow development over the past year and you see like how many new things are being added on a regular basis. Imagine that a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, who knows? Maybe we will be at a point where we have like a similar feature set to Arma, but it's completely free and it's completely open on Unreal Engine. Hopefully, eventually, we'll even upgrade to Unreal Engine 5. But I think that's another thing why Arma has its own proprietary like infrastructure. Unreal Engine, I think, it's so much more proliferated and it's so much more cross-compatible. Imagine if you had all of the power of Unreal Engine and also all the cross-compatibility and support from Epic Games on Unreal Engine, and all the freedom from a licensing standpoint as well. Imagine if you had all of that with all of the features of Arma. That would be amazing.
And oh, go ahead.
No.
And I think and you brought up licensing, and I think one of the things that I've learned since getting to sort of watch from the sidelines and what you guys are working on, I think a lot of people who play games, even games that are heavily modded or maybe more technically, you're required to be more technically savvy, like Arma, you kind of need to know a lot more technical capability just to play it, right? I think people who play those games don't understand how much of making games is more than just making a model, putting it in an engine and telling it to be able to move. How much more of the game is for one, the business side of it, like the licensing, the getting approval to use sounds, getting approval to use people's animations. Hey, we need a code snippet that somebody made, and rather than recreating it, we're going to buy it on a marketplace. But from the very get-go, just the very foundational elements, unless you're building your engine from scratch, which a couple of games have tried that and not done it. But
that is a big aspect of this as well, because a lot of people, I think one of the reasons that Operation Harsh Doorstop is taking a while to make is because if we're going to do this, we have to do it in a certain way. So that way, both legally and technically, it can last forever. And in the same way that, like Linux, when they had to, I think that I'm hoping one day Operation Harsh Doorstop can be kind of like the Linux of this genre, because that was the same reason Linux started. They were like, well, it would be great to use Windows for all of this stuff, but Windows keeps trying to charge us like $400 for a single copy, and like I'm not going to spend 30 grand in order to like power my server's operating systems because I got a server farm. Like, yeah, okay, maybe mom and pop don't care shelling $30, but as soon as you even put a small price tag on that, logistically, it can fuck things up for a whole bunch of. So that's why Linux started. It's like there's a place for that, and I think with Operation Harsh Doorstop, that's something that we want to do as well, where it's not just a matter of making a fun game. It's about making a game from a logistical standpoint, both legal logistics, technical logistics. It's gonna be able to last forever. A big example of this is the sounds. So a lot of people are like, hey, you guys need to get better sounds. And then we'll be like, look, we're working on it. It's difficult. And they're like, well, why is it so difficult? Game XYZ has really good sounds. And then we'll be like, okay, we'll go check that out. We'll go look at Game XYZ. We'll even contact them and be like, hey, who did your sounds? And they'll be like, oh, none of these sounds are ours. We just bought them.
We just bought them, yeah.
Marketplace. And then we go to the marketplace and we look at all the sounds and we're like, okay, these are cool. But then you look at it and it's like you have to pay like $1,000 for one project just to use those sounds. And then you have no distribution rights. So that means if we were to buy those sounds that make all of these other projects sound good, we would have to spend like either like an insane amount of money, like hundreds of thousands of dollars, or there's no option for it at all in order to release them in an SDK. Because then the SDK is considered like raw distribution, which is like a whole nother legal issue. And we're like, the only option here is for us to make sounds everything completely from scratch.
Yeah,
that's the only fucking option.
Contract it or bring someone in-house to do it.
And take that same example take that same example to like, it's easy to explain why things take a long time from a code standpoint when you look at that from a sound, and you're like, stuff like that sound example apply to so many other things.
Animations,
Some people
models.
are like, well, why don't you just use OWI core? And it's like, you have no idea how many legal things come with signing an OWI core
I like having a
agreement.
house.
I can't. Well, it's not even just that. It's like, you'd have to pay them revenue share. There's logistical restrictions where it's like you can't distribute it in certain ways. You can't, like, we can't, if we were to utilize OWI core, we can't release OWI core in an uncompiled format in the SDK. We can't do that. Like, we can't release the code that that we sign a special deal with them to get. Like, they would never allow that. Unless they would, and hit me up. But as from what I've been told, that would never be allowed. So we have to make it from scratch. And the difference from us and other projects is, like, our objective is to make this from scratch, so we can have full control over how we release it. So it's like, I can give it to you all. I can, like, and I don't have to ask anybody permission. I want to be able to be in a position where it's like, I want to make my project either completely open or as open as I am legally allowed to make it, and I don't want to have to ask anybody permission. And a big part of that means that we're gonna have to like make from scratch a whole bunch of components for these games that a lot of people take for granted. And the first couple of years working on Operation Harsh Doorstop was working on some of those really stupid small things that are just like insanely complex that people just have no idea are as complex as they are. Like the ballistics system. Like, even because right now people are, we still have a couple of issues with like hit registration, but it's actually, they're all foreseen issues. We know that they're going to be there because we've looked at similar projects like Squad and like Battlefield. Even they had hit registration issues, and then they perfected them.
Yeah.
But that's because you have to build, if you're going to be building out like a ballistic simulation system, like, you have to do it in a specific way where you have like a version 1 and a version 2 and a version 3, and as it gets better and better, you tweak it. So we're currently at version 1. We're like at the same version right now that Battlefield was at when they had kind of like some of their hit registration issues and stuff like that. But in order to build it to that point is like an insane amount of like math and research, and not just research into stuff that not only is difficult to just know it all, but like, if anybody else has discovered it before, like if EA has the magical algorithm of how to like simulate like a sniper bullet trajectory, they're not gonna fucking let us know.
Yeah.
They've got that locked in a key 50 miles down in a data drive somewhere. And so, and I know people are like, well, everything's on the internet. And it's like, dude, not until you start to realize how much is not on the internet, right? Like, because some of this stuff is so difficult that like we have to make it from scratch.
I mean,
So-
that kind of makes sense, right? Because you're talking about the model of sort of games that other people are making, right? And like,
Right.
the unfortunate part about making video games is that, for the most part, it's not a super profitable venture, right? So you have
Right.
these big corporations generally, but even smaller studios, that are like, no, we need to leverage 100% of that. So any of the knowledge that they
Right.
gain in house, they hang
Yeah.
on to, and the only way to
Yes.
get that is to hire their programmers after they fire them at the end of the project.
Right.
So those
No, that's
programmers
true.
don't want to share it either.
You're gonna knock over like a domino, and then because there's so many, because it's so, you're right, there's so many consequences to them not sharing knowledge, and I think you'll see that happen. What'll happen is whenever you have a studio like EA and they lock their stuff down like that and they don't want to share it, it gets to the point where the only people that even understand how it works get fired. And then eventually EA has got all this proprietary software that nobody knows how to use. And like, they can't, and it gets to a point where it's like, they actually could hire a software engineer to like relearn, but it would take like years just for a new software engineer to even learn all that stuff, if there's any of them that could learn it at all. Because when when you don't share that information with the community, and you don't have that knowledge kind of like spread out where people are constantly like immersed in it, it gets lost. And I think that's another reason why I want to develop this the way that it is. Collective intelligence is something I think is so valuable. It's something so powerful that people, I don't think, even really have understood how to harness yet. And it's something we're about to go. I don't know if you want to go down this tangent, because this is like,
You've been
it's
known
not
for some
necess-
tangents in your time.
That's all. I am a walking tangent. I
I
am a
mean, but yeah,
walking
it makes
tangent.
sense, right? Because right now you're, not you're not the guy doing Oichi, right? But like you
I'm not.
are, but you're running the studio that's making it, and like I
My
think that there's,
objective is to build the system that makes this game happen.
Mhm.
And it's no one thing. Like, there's a whole, it's some of it's project management, some of it is like engineering social, environment. Discord, I think, is a huge example of like weaponized social engineering. Where you can create like these communities and stuff where people can get things done, and you can see Karmika utilizing Discord and stuff like that.
Mhm.
I think Discord is a great example that, like, well designed social applications can have an immediate impact on people's productivity levels,
I mean, we're talking on
and
Discord
stuff
right
like.
now.
Right, exactly. Look at us. Look at us using. I got to work for Discord. They hired me
Oh, that's
way back in the
awesome.
day. Yeah, I did.
I mean, we
Back
think
when I
about it, we'd
did.
have to be using like Zoom or Skype
Right,
or something
right,
else that's like clearly an inferior
exactly.
product.
Exactly. And that is a big aspect of this, where, because a lot of people ask what I do. And there's a lot of things in my life that I do. I play piano. I've even made levels in Unreal Engine, and I there's lots of others. Iron Armada was another game that I
Mhm.
I made, and I got way better at learning like Java programming than I will ever use again in my fucking life ever. Like, it was honestly kind of a waste of my goddamn time to do that. And there's lots of other skills that I have. There's loads of, so when people ask, we're like, well, are you a developer? What do you develop? And it's like, I don't know, man. A billion different fucking things. But my role in this project that I've seen from the very beginning, and what my obsession is building an environment in which this game can be made. And I think that's a much bigger and more important thing than a lot of people give credit for, because I have watched so many other projects fail. And I've watched so many other studios fail. Big studios that you think were too big to fail. They come out with an amazing tactical game, and just as you're getting excited, their entire development team gets laid off, and then everything starts going to shit, and everybody's like, "What happened?" And the thing is I've been watching that for so long. I got to this point where it's like, I actually think I know what they're doing wrong and how to build an environment that they didn't build that would result in a better game over a longer period of time. And that's my objective. And I think, again, like I said, this could be a whole tangent in itself, where I could talk to you not just about what we're doing now in order to build kind of like a decentralized development environment, but also long term, as we either continue to find new applications and new infrastructure in order to facilitate decentralized development, or possibly even develop our own internal tools that we could then also share for free, that can that can facilitate decentralized development in a way that just has never been done before.
You're sounding super Web3 right now. I don't know if I'm ready for this.
Well,
I'm just messing with you.
it's not. I mean,
Yeah, you're not
nothing.
talking about decentralized like
Nothing.
that.
I'm
You
not
mean
talking about. I'm not talking about Web3.
you mean
I,
empowering individuals who like the game or want to try something to be able to do it without having to learn like all of this extra
not
stuff.
just having not just not having to learn all of this extra stuff, but also being able to contribute in a way that is actually contributive. And what I mean by that, like, okay, imagine this, right? Imagine I come out with a video and I'm like, everybody, I want every single person who is watching this video to help me develop Operation Harsh Doorstop. One of the first things that's probably going to happen is everybody's going to be like, I mean, assuming everybody is interested, hypothetically, they're gonna like, I don't know, go into Blender and they're gonna start making, I don't know, weapon models and sounds and whatever. But then a week later, when I'm like, all right, everybody, show me what you have made. You're gonna have 1,000 people that have made a G36. You're gonna
Yeah.
have 100 people that have all made the same sound for the M16. You're gonna have 40,000 people that have all made the fucking I don't know, the AK-47, because everybody loves a goddamn AK-47. So you got 1 billion people that make it, and it gets to this point where there actually is an art. I wouldn't even say an art. There's a science to not just allowing people to contribute to something, but facilitating people to contribute to something in a meaningful way. It's like a management aspect where if we could build, and if you were to go to OperationHarshDoorstop.com, which please go check that out.
OperationHarshDoorstop.com.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not actually plugging it. It's like it's just
No, you
an
should plug it
example.
though.
Sure, if you want to.
OperationHarshDoorstop.com. Sign up for the
One of the-
Patreon.
This is the first thing that we're experimenting with. So OperationHarshDoorstop.com. If you want to, I've gone through, I've set it up. Amazon Web Services, we've got a provider. It's all hooked up. You can upload as many files as you want to that. Doesn't fucking matter. It's all paid for. It's all figured out. OperationHarshDoorstop.com is a place where you can actually go and you can download the SDK. You can make whatever the hell you want for Operation Harsh Doorstop, and you can upload it for everybody to see. So it's like, hey, there's already somebody in there. He made like interactable doors, a bunch of people making maps, a bunch of people making all sorts of stuff. Over time, here's an example of something that we could hypothetically do in order to weaponize people's ability to contribute to the game development in a decentralized way. At a certain point, I'm just going to start putting up bounties. And I'm going to say, hey guys, we need this done. If somebody can do this, you'll get $500. Or like, hey guys, we need this done. And we can get to a point where we could have, imagine if there was a decentralized bounty board for a project like this that is completely open and all of the tools for making it are completely open. And we could have a system where people could actually go to a website and say, hey, what needs to be done for today? What needs to be done that somebody else isn't already doing that I can contribute to? And they can go there and they can immediately have an impact on making this game better and get paid for it and continuously build this product. Those are the kinds of ideas. Those are the kinds of things that I think about that I've built. And again, that's just one example of maybe something we might do in the future. There is thousands upon thousands upon thousands of things that we have already done, that I've already done. You could probably talk to Gooms about this. He's helped me with a whole bunch of this stuff going back years and years that we've already set up that has gotten Operation Harsh Doorstop to where it is today. And there are things that we can continue to do, especially as we get a bigger budget and we have more flexibility and we can get more partners and stuff like that, where we could potentially build systems that would allow everybody to contribute to this project in ways that AAA studios will physically be unable to keep up with. And that, I think when people look at Operation Harsh Doorstop and they're like, what is this, like a tactical shooter? If you've listened to if anybody listens to this podcast and everything that I've just said, that what I just said prior to that, talking about how we could potentially turn this not just into a tactical shooter, but into this thing that is built by a decentralized community of contributors in a very organized way. Weaponizing people's ability to contribute and facilitating that to a really high degree of efficiency could be the difference of this project, like moving along at a tedious pace for a while, or this project absolutely skyrocketing in features and in capability in a very short time span. So that is a big element of what I do, of what me and a couple of others like near the top do that I think other studios are not doing correctly, that they could be doing. Maybe because they're afraid of being too open, maybe security. I don't fucking care why they're not doing it, but they're not. And this is something that we want to do different, that I think over time people are going to realize is what sets us apart, and is also going to be something that people are going to feel more empowered and more passionate about because of how well it works and how they can have an impact on this.
Yeah, they're involved. They're involved in a project they love.
Than any other community and any other game. You can't have that kind of an impact on Battlefield. Not only can you not have it, they won't let you. Like, as much as they sit there and be like, we're a community. No, they're fucking not. you're just a pig that they can like sacrifice on their goddamn altar and have money come out. You know, like
The money
crazy.
pig.
Yeah, I know exactly. That's all you are. So all of these people that are like, oh, we're all a family and we're all a community. No, you're not. You are not. But what we want to do is build something where you actually are, where we actually do have a community, and not just a community. We have a functional and powerful, like decentralized production model where we can create free and open things that literally everybody benefits from. I mean, this is the kind of stuff, again, we talk about this too long. We kind of stop talking about game development entirely.
Yeah.
Because this mentality, I mean, imagine if we could perfect this. This is the kind of stuff you could make medicine this way. You could make fucking, goddamn, like airplanes and shit, like whatever.
I mean, it's if you look at like other open source model, or like not that you guys are open source, but like open source models. I mean, that's a lot of how they do that is, hey, come in, what you can contribute what you can, and then if you can't if you can only do a little bit, if you can only read through 10 lines of code and you find one bug in those 10 lines, then you still contributed, right?
Exactly.
I feel like
and that's something
yeah.
we want to weaponize that mentality more than I think it's been weaponized recently. In fact, a good example of, I think, decentralized but organized contributions in order to do something like productive. I don't even remember this. I need to look into this, but there was way back in the day, there was a program where you could optionally opt into allowing your PlayStation to be utilized to like
folding at home.
Yeah, there it is. Folding at home. That was a perfect example.
I was thinking about the whole time you're talking about this. I'm like, this sounds just a lot like folding at home.
Damn. Decentralized productivity, where you can take average people. And that's the thing. You know how people are like, did you ever watch, there's that one movie where it's like average people only use 5% of their brain. Imagine when they use like 100%. And like, and there's like, what's that movie with the chick in it where she like basically becomes a god and then like she uses 100% of her brain. She can like snap people's necks and crazy shit.
I think I missed that one.
The chick that plays Black Widow. Gooms is gonna know it.
Gooms is gonna say it here in a second.
She plays it.
He's got a poster of her up on his wall. I'm sure
you've heard that sign. That I don't even know if it's true or not. But it's like, oh, imagine if you could use 100% of your brain and the average person uses like 5-10% or whatever. That is literally what is happening to the gaming community. You've got this group of people that are all way more intelligent than they give themselves credit for, and we are not using them efficiently.
Not taking advantage of that talent.
We're not giving them purpose. We're not taking advantage of that talent. And it's not even a matter of like exploitive behavior. It's like they want to do something. It's a lot of them are just sitting at home and it's like, God damn, I would love to do something right now and I can't think of what to do. Folding at home is a great example of that. Again, I'll have to go back to that because that is a perfect example. Imagine if we could utilize that exact same mentality to make a game. Imagine what would happen if eventually we get to a point where we're not making just a good game. Like, because people are like, oh, well, it'll never be good as Squad because Squad is like, they got a fully paid development team, or it'll never be good as Battlefield because EA's got all this money. Imagine what would happen if we perfected this idea of building a decentralized development community and we get to a point where not only are we making a good game, what if we actually start surpassing studios that have fully paid commercial teams? Because I think we actually could. You look at Roblox. Again, I love going back to Roblox, and I think Roblox is it is a drastically underestimated application. And I think the stock markets don't lie. I know a lot of people are dismissive about it because everybody's like, kids stuff, right?
It looks all blocky. It's for kids.
It looks all blocky, but kids are the future. And I got to tell you, Roblox is pretty fucking close to perfecting, or well, I don't want to say perfected because I do think there's a lot of stuff they could do better. But they are really close to perfecting that model of decentralized development where they've got all the they just got that's what kids can do.
Yeah, kids got all the time in the world, and they're not afraid of failure. They'll sit there and work for 18 hours a day over summer.
That is also a problem because the child labor implications.
I don't know if they've gotten away with it yet.
Exactly.
But even still.
But imagine, again, that idea, I think, is the future. And I think Operation Harsh Doorstop is just one. it is obviously we all here love I love tactical shooters. I'm big out of Project Reality. So on one hand, I really just want to make a good. I think we're basically we're prototyping. We're utilizing this mentality, this decentralized concept, to make a tactical shooter because we love tactical. I mean, we could use it to make whatever the fuck we want, right? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes I wonder, and it's like, man, I wonder if I was like as passionate about making, I don't know, like
Platformers, dating
medicine or
sims.
or cars or like electric cars. I could be a billionaire now if I was in it because I could make the next Tesla or something if I like you. But no, I fucking I want tactical shooters. So this is like this whole business model we're using to make tactical shooters because that's my thing. But this is also why if we were to perfect this, imagine if we could make that tactical shooter and then continue developing that tactical shooter in order to be the ultimate project that everybody had a hand in the making.
Well, and one thing that I sell to a lot of people when I talk about this project that I think is kind of missed, right? Because I think the fact that you're making a tactical shooter as OHD with its various sort of mods within it, right? And how you're putting all the features in that you want from a tactical shooter but don't exist in other things that are easily moddable, like say Half-Life or Source or something like that. It doesn't have all those things, but like that doesn't say that you couldn't remake Doom in OHD. It doesn't have to be a tactical shooter. Literally, if it's any first person, and
Literally anything.
You think about like what some people have done with Source. Like, what was that game where you were a robot and you're just like moving mirrors and you had to aim mirrors and lasers around or whatever, and you're like there's like a game that was like a
sure.
It was like a Source mod, and it was like ended up being like questioning what is humanity and what, like, it was like it got this really deep, like, and it's a puzzle game,
as
but
soon
you're
as you open that Pandora's box,
yeah, you can make anything in it. Just because it's a tactical shooter game doesn't mean that it has to be tactical or even has to be a shooter. It could do anything in it.
And we think starting as a tactical shooter is going to be a really good bit because there's a lot of games out there where, because if you make a tactical shooter, there's a lot of features. Like if you notice, Arma is one of the best sandboxes out there.
Mm-hmm.
It's really powerful. And I think one of the reasons for that is because it has all of the ingredients in order to be so many other things. And I think one of the reasons making a tactical shooter, especially a realistic tactical shooter, is such a great such a great catalyst or such a great environment for like so many other games is because all of the things that you have to make in order to make a tactical shooter work are also very highly applicable to just so many other games. So I think that's another reason. Not only do I like tactical shooters, but also the idea of having that be a starting point instead of something like Roblox, right? I think Roblox, if you were to go into Roblox right now and make like a game that has nothing, like, and you don't have access to anybody else's stuff, like it's just a blocky dude walking around like on a plane. But if we were to start and instead of it's just a blocky dude walking around on a plane, and instead of that, it's like an actual like functional like Battlefield style game, having that as a starting point could be so much more powerful. There could be so many more people that get started modding that then end up being really good at making content with OHD and maybe even learning a lot about game development who would have never really started with Roblox or something like Roblox because just starting as vanilla Roblox is not that much fun. And furthermore, talking about the Roblox example as well, another big differentiator between us and Roblox is that Roblox, like a lot of their Roblox is all based in the cloud, right? So you don't actually download any files. That's actually a big aspect of their plan because in order to develop in Roblox, it's not like developing in Unity or Unreal Engine 4. You have to learn Roblox's tools. Roblox is entirely proprietary. They're not going to let you have their vehicle code. They're not going to let you have their networking code. They're not going to make any of that shit public. So even though Roblox is a great example of like decentralized development capacity and like weaponizing a huge group of people in order to like make something, it's a little bit more nefarious because they're basically weaponizing people to help them create a proprietary product. Whereas with us, what we want to do is like, and this is another reason why I wanted Operation and why we're going to continue to release Operation Harsh Doorstop for free is because in order for that to work, and I don't want to build like a $40 game and then be like, hey, let's all get excited about everybody coming together to make this game that makes me money. Like that's not that people.
I'm building a community of my customers.
I wouldn't even I wouldn't even be excited about that, which is another reason why it has to be free. It's not an option. It has to be. for this mentality to work, for this business model to work, it has to be something where if all of these people are going to be contributing to it, they all have to be benefiting from it evenly. As even myself, I don't even want to benefit from this any more than like Karma could or somebody else. In fact, I have literally not just made no money off of Operation Harsh Doorstop. I have definitely made less money. Like
you've
literally
made negative money.
everything that we've gotten has gone in development, plus me putting more of my personal income into, which again, my personal income is like, YouTube and stuff like that, which, how I still kind of even consider that to be, I kind of still owe that as well to pouring into something that gives back to everybody else. But
well, and I think that there's a pretty straight continuum from being a content creator, like a YouTube content creator, where you play games and you add something to it. It's almost like a different form of modding, right? Like your commentary, your gameplay, your humor, whatever it is, you're taking the base game and you add something to it, and then if things go well, you find a way to monetize that enough, not to where you're taking away from somebody, you're not gating it off, but that you find a way to get a kickback of some variety from that. And I feel like it's not surprising, like I said before, that a lot of community and content creators that are forward thinking are now going beyond just playing whatever the flavor of the month game is and saying, okay, how can I actually add more value to it? If me and my community make a mod and I'm the first one that gets to cover it, I get a value out of that by being the first one to cover it, but also I just made something anyone else can play. And like even at my much lower level than where like you and Karma Cut and Drewski are at, even within that, this like when Ready or Not came out, I'm like, hey, modding tools came out. Does anyone want to just make a mod and slap our name on it? And there's a guy in our the Aussie Merc who's like, hey, I'd like to make a mod. I'm trying to learn how to do that. And he made a mod for our community that was like, unique for the moment. People have recreated the stuff that he made in there, but it was like unique for the moment. And he just did it because he felt like he wanted to do it, and we all got value from it. I think that's so cool, and I think it's really cool, the continuum from I play games, I make videos to share sort of the fun of the games. Well, now I'm making games. Now I'm making a game that allows other people to have that same feeling.
And we want to build something. I want to create something that is going to be part of that journey for everybody. I want to make something, because again, I think a lot of people are like, man, I can't, because when a lot of influencers, I think, start getting into game development, I think one of the biggest problems, especially that makes that game usually not pan out, is because their first thing is like, man, I can't wait to make a game and then have everybody just pay me money and have it be about me, And I think that's kind of the first problem, because I mean, not only have you built like your entire brand on having like this big open community of people that follow you and are kind of like all part of a big community that interacts with themselves, like even if you have a Discord server, everybody's in there talking to each other.
And they're not just talking to you.
Exactly. It's about a community. But I think it also it gets in the way of all of the other. So for instance, like I'm going through my journey, you're going through your journey as a content creator, Karmakut's going through his journey. I want to make a game where when you see the game that I've made or that my community has made, I don't want you to be like, well, I don't want to play that because that's Blue Drake's game, and now I need to make my own game in order to compete with Blue Drake. I want you to look at that game and be like, damn, I could use Blue Drake's game in order to like help my own career.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I could actually kind of almost use that collaboratively in order to like make something that helps me. And I think that mentality is what we really want to tap into in order to make OHD not just like, yo, what's this Blue Drake's game? It's like, this is something.
Hey, it's a Blue Drake here, and look at this game that you have to talk to me to play.
Exactly. I want to make something where everybody's going to look at that and they're going to instantly go like, man, I could really use that for myself. Like with Discord, like the whole reason Discord is so good is because it's like, it's not like, yo, man, I love fucking the little blue guy logo of Discord. Man, I love that. It's like, no, man, Discord is a great tool and I really can use that to like build. That's why I also like Twitch's whole bleed purple thing kind of pisses me off, because it's like, just make a good platform. Like, don't sit there and like try to breed loyalty from people just because
People will use your
it's
platform if it's good, not because they like you
yeah, not because it's
individually.
purple, or it's like
Yeah.
not because it's like, oh man, I can't wait to be purple. It's like, man, how about I can't wait to make a good streaming platform? Like, why isn't that the
I can't
fucking
wait until you're not
why
taking
isn't that the
50% of the
motto?
cut pre-tax.
Right, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So that's definitely a mentality shift for us as well, where we want to do things. I don't. This isn't my game, man. It's not. This isn't my game. It's. This is the thing.
You're just the hype
Look,
man.
I built a career off of Project Reality. I was not. There were so many other people that made Project Reality what it was. For me to even ride the coattails of that and have the career that I have, I feel not only do I think it's the best thing to do, like even from a business standpoint, I think from making OHD like the way that we have, I think it makes the most sense even from like a success standpoint. Because I think if I was gonna make like a game that was all about me, like it would have to be a pretty damn good game for it to not fail. Because I don't think people are interested in that right now. So from a business standpoint, I think OHD needs to be exactly the way that it is for it to succeed. But even from a moral standpoint, like I feel obligated. There's so many other things that I have been a part of or that I have used. I mean, even OBS. Like, I don't know who the hell made OBS, but
Yeah.
that's been a big part of helping my career. It's my time to build something that helps other people in the way that other people have made things that have helped me. And I think as long as everybody continues participating in that mentality, that's the ultimate like human civilization achievement, right? Like if we're all focused on building things for each other instead of building things for ourselves, that's how humanity progresses. That's how, we ascend or whatever.
It's like it's your turn to hold the ladder for somebody else instead of pull it up after
Right.
yourself.
Right.
Which is, I
Yeah.
mean, how often do you see that happen in the community? Okay,
Honestly, a lot more than I think. If people focused on the people that did that, I think you'd see a lot more of it. So yeah. But anyways,
so
it's been a while.
we need to talk about the demo.
Yeah,
That
hit
was
me.
the main reason why the timeliness of
And now we're talking about like the metaverse, like
yeah,
human
yeah, exactly.
psychology and shit.
And
Welcome
these
to a talk with me, buddy.
maybe we should maybe you and I should talk offline about creating the Drakeling Labs podcast where we can talk about this sort of stuff, because I think that there might actually be a value.
Sure.
It's like
I am more happy to show up on it. I don't have time to run my own podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
I've got so much other shit
I'll do
going
it.
on.
I'll interview you
But you
people.
do.
We'll talk about it. We'll talk about this
me.
later. We'll
And
interview
then-
you guys later.
Right. Do a whole separate like TED Talk DRK edition.
Oh
or
my god,
something.
I'd love to. TEDx, it's coming. Okay, so
Perfect.
let's talk about the demo and what
Sure.
what the plan is for the demo. So what's the difference between the demo and the release product?
So we're not done.
Release,
Like the
I
game
guess.
is not done, but we want to start getting people involved. Like again, a big part of this that I've said from the beginning, it's like I want this to be open. I want this to be free. How can it be free and open if it's not? Like the SDK's out there obviously, but people can't access this. The demo is our objective to put a version of this game out there that people can finally. It's not done. It's not perfect. It's not amazing. It's not the ultimate vision of what we want to create. God, I need to go. I got
You got
something
nose
in my
hair?
nose. Or maybe it's all the cocaine I've been snorting. I have no idea, but it's one of the something's itchy in my nose. It's really driving me crazy.
Just dig it
But,
out on camera. We'll make sure. Here,
yes.
I'm hiding the
No,
camera.
I'm
You can't
good.
know
I'm
that.
good. I'm good. Anyway. Oh yeah. So the demo is our first is our objective to finally get something out into people's hands. There's a lot of things about the multiplayer, primarily anti-cheat stuff, that we're still and like server administration, not even necessarily like anti-cheat stuff, but like server administration tools and like things that just need to be in before we make that like available. So we thought, okay, single player, let's get the single player version of the game out. But obviously we don't want people to think that this is the full-blown release of the game, because it doesn't have, the single player demo is not going to have multiplayer yet. So we're like, let's use Steam's demo system. That's perfect. It's open, it's public, it's available, but it's obviously not the full version of the game. It's not the final version of the game. I don't want to have a bunch of people in there like freaking out and like spamming like I don't know, whatever, like thumbs down or something, and be like, this game sucks. It's like, dude, it's not done. So the demo, I think, is a perfect example for us to say, here's what we have ready so far. Help us take it the rest of the way. And the demo, you're gonna have the SDK. The demo has full mod support enabled. Not even enabled. I mean, it's just, I don't want to say enabled as if like it's a checkbox. Like it's just
by
the
default.
game.
It's not locked
literally,
down.
yeah. Basically, the way the demo is it's basically, you could probably even mod multiplayer into the demo if you wanted to, because it's literally, it's just the game minus the multiplayer server browser in there, because Steam still powers our server browser, because there's a lot of again, this game wouldn't be possible if it wasn't for all of the different things that have come together to help us get. Steam has been a big part of that, because there's so many things that Steam does that that we would have to spend a shit ton of time doing in order to get up and running. But yeah, so the single player demo is basic. It's the full game that we have so far, just minus the server browser. And hell, if you want to mod in a server browser and like play some other way, dude, you do you, man. I don't give a shit. But that's how I think that's going to be a perfect way to get this started. Where we can finally start getting it into the hands of people and show them what we've got, and show them also where we need help. Because I think, people are going to download the demo and they're going to be like, hey, this is wrong. Hey, this needs to be fixed. Or like, hey, like this isn't as optimized as it could be. And we're going to be like, yeah, we know. Like, go fix it, please. Tell us how you fixed it, And I think that this is going to be a great way for us to start more collaboratively working with the community as well, where there's going to be a version of this out. It's going to be completely for free. And it's going to be, I think a lot of people are like, hey, how long is the demo going to be out for? Dude, once we release this is the first version that's going to be out forever. Like, and it's not like, this is the beginning of the game being completely public. And hopefully, again, as we continue developing this and we get more and more features in, once we release the full version of the game and it has all of the things, because again, fighting cheaters is going to be really important. So we want to get the infrastructure in there so you can fight cheaters. Obviously, we're not a for-profit game, so I don't want to implement something like Easy Anti-Cheat where they're going to build the shit out of us if we get like a high concurrent player count, because that shit, I know it's free, but like it gets expensive. Fuck.
Very quickly.
Like once you and for a free game,
once you get a free game, yeah.
Right. Yeah, because they're like, don't worry, it only triggers when you have 10,000 concurrent users, and then it's only $1 billion a year, and it's like, that's not gonna work.
Those 10,000 concurrents don't pay me anything.
Yeah, so. Exactly, right? So that's been a big piece of the puzzle to like figure out. But actually beyond that as well, I think there are other ways, because there's a lot of people that don't even like anti-cheat, like traditional anti-cheat solutions. Like, I think the best anti-cheat is just having a well-administrated server.
Yeah.
Like Project Reality doesn't have any official anti-cheat, but they have developers that write custom scripts for their own servers that'll automatically ban cheaters. Because, think about it. We're going to have mod support out there, and if you look at 5M and a lot of the most popular 5M servers, they have their own in-house like anti-cheat solution. Because like if a dude teleports to the other side of the map, it's like, okay, that guy's obviously fucking cheating. Ban him. Like, so there's stuff you can do. And I would actually go as far to say that having a decentralized anti-cheat solution where you have all of these servers, like not only have good administration tools, but maybe like there's a whole bunch of other community developed anti-cheat scripts that are out there that might actually be a better way to fight cheaters than having like a big single uniform anti-cheat service where, you defeat the anti-cheat. Because right now with Fortnite, all you have to do is have one person defeat the entire anti-cheat system once, and then everybody has it. Yep. But if you have it where every single server has like its own like custom, anti-cheat, or if the community makes like 30 different anti-cheat solutions, and then every single server that you join, maybe they're using anti-cheat from community B, or maybe that's going to be way more effective at fighting cheat. It's like the bananas. The bananas.
There's only one kind of banana now, and there used to be a lot of different kinds of bananas?
You're right on track, actually.
I
Yeah,
don't know
because
how I'm following this, but okay.
the Cavendish, because what
Yeah.
happened, the Great Banana Plague, Google it. Because what happened was there got to a point where almost every single banana on the entire planet was like the exact same genetic copy. Because we had basically perfected bananas, right? Because bananas started and they kind of sucked. And then we genetically engineered the bananas to have, smaller seeds and shit so you could eat them. And then we finally got to like this perfect banana and we're like, oh, this is great. Everybody just grow these. And then we also had it so the bananas, like when they germinated, they didn't change their genetic code, because why the hell would you want the banana to change its genetic code? Because it's so tasty exactly the way it is. So everybody had the exact same banana, right? But then the problem was a virus. I don't know what the hell virus, but just something, because viruses do what viruses do. Viruses are kind of like the cheaters of the
Yeah,
real world.
I'm picking
And
up what you're putting down.
literally, and what
Cheaters are like viruses and must be eradicated.
literally the same thing, because that's what viruses do. They sit there and they evolve until they find the perfect thing that fucks shit up, and then they and that's what happened. As soon as there was a virus or a plague or whatever, that bacteria, something, I forget what the fuck it was, but there was one thing that was just really good at killing that one banana, and then it just like wiped out the entire world's banana crop in like a weekend. Man, not a weekend, but like a very short period of time. And since then, there's been a whole bunch of stuff put into making more like genetic variety for different fruits and vegetables and stuff like that. So that way, when you have a single virus, it just doesn't wipe out the entire world's breadbasket in a weekend. It's going to be the same thing with a server browser. That's a big aspect of why we think community managed servers and like decentralized stuff is kind of the only solution.
And are people
for
going to be able to
fighting
upload
cheaters.
those scripts to like OperationHarshDoorstop.com?
If they want. So again, this is not OperationHarshDoorstop.com it's a temporary place.
Mhm.
Obviously, the end goal. Actually, I don't even want to say the end goal. The main goal right now is Steam Workshop.
Yeah, it's
We
like
want
a
to get to a
workshop. Okay,
point.
yeah.
This is work. We want to get Steam Workshop. That's going to take a
Not
lot of time.
mod.io? What?
We would like so eventually our objective is to make the game. We're utilizing Steam right now because Steam does a bunch of shit that we just can't do, which is by design. I think
Yeah.
Steam does that intentionally because it's like, hey, look at all of these features that we have that you'll never be able to develop in your goddamn lives. Please stay on our platform and never go anywhere else. So we took the bait and we're like, yeah, we're going to utilize some of these really nice Steam features to get this game up and rolling. But long term, I would love to make it so OHD is entirely platform agnostic. So it's like you don't even have to have a Steam account to play it. You can you can share it on Pirate Bay. You can share it, and it'll be legal. You can whatever you want to torrent.
You're gonna seed it.
I'll fucking seed it for you, bro. I fucking will. And that's the point. But I don't think it'll be on Pirate Bay because it won't need to be, because more importantly, you'll be able to rehost it, right? Like that's actually how Project Reality works. In fact, they would ask me every so often, be like, hey, we just pushed a new version of the game. Can you please like host the download for it on your damn website? I'd be like, yeah, sure. So like I want to get to a point where it's like Operation Harsh Doorstop. Like I want everybody to have like a Google Drive link of the Operation Harsh Doorstop installer and have it be completely platform agnostic. Don't have to have a Steam. And same with mods. If we could eventually get to a point where it's like you can use Steam Workshop if you want, but you could also use Mod.io if you want. You could also use Nexus if you want. You could also use. We were even thinking about potentially, because again, I want to get this to a point where Operation Harsh Doorstop cannot be taken down. Like it's physically impossible. So like if some studio gets pissed off and they're like let's say Battlefield in the future is like, you know what? OHD is really fucking with our bottom line. Let's make up some ridiculous excuse and try to like, I don't know, either sue him or kick him off the platform, or
We're gonna kill him.
Or we're just gonna fucking kill him. Right. I want to get to
Liquidate.
a point where there's literally no way to get rid of Operation Harsh Doorstop. So we were thinking, we're like, what if there was like a decentralized way to distribute modifications? What if we could actually have it so there's like a torrent-based system for distributing modifications, where it's like you could join a server, you could download modifications directly off of that server, you could download modifications either through like a decentralized torrent system, and there will be pros and cons for that. So it's like, okay, you can utilize Steam Workshop, and Steam Workshop is like secure and it's easy, and you don't have to pay for it or whatever. But let's say in the future Steam goes down, or like, I don't know.
Or you get kicked off of it because they decide that your game is extremist or something.
I'm not going to say, I guess I have to. I'm debating on whether I should talk about this or not.
I'll give you permission to not talk about it.
I don't think. See, I got to talk to my lawyer more about whether I'm liable or not. Fuck it, we're going for it. Let's say there's a Star Wars mod for Operation Harsh Doorstop, right? That would be something that I think is very at risk of getting like a DMCA from Disney. Now, I don't condone utilizing other people's intellectual property without permission.
But if somebody were to make a mod that happened to be similar to Star Wars,
imagine if there was a system that we had set up with Operation Harsh Doorstop where you could distribute the modification to everybody through an anonymous, decentralized network, no matter what. Once you make it, it's there, and it's there forever, and not even us as the creators of the game even have the ability to take it down. It would be physically impossible. Yep. Now, our whole thing is I don't think I can be liable for this. And we make a game, people can do whatever they want with it.
Yeah, they can plug in something that they made.
In our TOS, we're gonna be like, yo, man, if you make a fucking game about like, I don't know, killing puppies, nothing to do with us, bruh. But we want to create a system where it can be that same idea of creative freedom, but in a game sense. So yeah.
Well, I mean
what were we talking about?
I think that harkens back to days of yore when people would make mods for games like Half-Life or something like that. Like, you could get them from a variety of places. You had to install them yourself. Yes. But like there were definitely some mods that Valve would not have approved of that got made. And you could play
Half-Life. It's kind of frustrating because Half-Life and Battlefield 2. I think Battlefield 2 and Half-Life. I don't know what like the most modded game in history is, but I think Battlefield 2 and Half-Life are definitely up there. But one of the things that's really frustrating is because because Half-Life's what? It's like dirt cheap now, right? Like it's basically free, but it's not. Yeah. It's not actually free, but it's so cheap that it might as well be. Even it having a price tag at all has been incredibly debilitating and limiting for how much more flourishing I think the mod community could be if there were no restrictions. Imagine if Half-Life was out there and you could just download it and do whatever you wanted with it, and you didn't have to worry about cutting in. I think one of the communities that has done this the best is the Doom community. So id Software put out Doom, the engine, open source. They didn't put out the game content as open source, which again, I think that's still been a limiting factor for how big the modding community could be if everything was released as open source. But hey, they released the engine as open source, so I'll take that. And then the community, they literally created their own open source content packs in order to take the Doom engine and their own open source content packs, and now they have their own completely standalone game. And the modding community that flourished out of that was massive. Imagine if you could take that same mentality for a modern shooter in Unreal Engine. There hasn't really been the one. I mean, even like Half-Life, Insurgency, even classic Insurgency, Battlefield 2, like all of these games still technically have a price tag, still technically have legal limitations applied to them, distribution limitations. There's some sort of like proprietary ownership somewhere in there, and it fucks everything at a very low legal level. That really, like, imagine if Project Reality was on Steam. If Project Reality was on Steam, massive player base instantly. Thousands. I mean, they struggle.
One click download and you're playing.
They can't do it. It's illegal. EA, they're actually kind of playing this weird game where technically Project Reality is kind of already like illegal, but it's not so illegal that EA cares yet. So they just kind of let it happen. But that's the reason it's not on Steam, because as soon as they go on Steam, EA's like, all right, we should shut this down.
Somebody's making money and it's not us.
Right. That's
allegedly
super debilitating. Even if they put it up for free, it would probably, because then EA would be like, but we have Origin, whatever. So that is super debilitating. Again, one of the reasons we wanted to start this whole vision and build it from scratch is to dodge all of those legal issues and create a platform that has none of those problems, and then release it for free, as some of these games probably should have been released for free. Like I don't even know what's going on. Like, why does Gabe care? Like, why does it, like, who the fuck is still making money off of Half-Life now? Like, what? Like, the fucking... I mean, they could probably...
To be fair, they let Sven Co-op be free, and that's literally Half-Life multiplayer.
But that's like the bare minimum of what they could be doing. Like they could be doing all of this stuff that we are doing. So many other people should be doing. And for how much they talk about how much they love, like, I don't know, their communities and like being like nonprofit and helping like the open source community, like some of the basic shit they could do is just be like, I'm going to make Half-Life open source. Like
Half-Life
just
and
actually
Half-Life
open
2.
source. Yeah,
Release
even
them right
Half-Life
now.
isn't Half-Life like technically based on what's it based on?
There was
Hold up.
a specific engine that they made for Half-Life.
Yeah. It wasn't Doom, was it? Hold up. No. It was a gold source engine. What is it? Gold source.
Half-Life engine.
Quake.
Oh, is it Quake? Oh yeah, Gold
Yeah.
Source. Yeah, Gold
Yeah,
Source is
it's
their Quake
software.
engine.
Even Half-Life is built utilizing previously open source software that it put out, as I understand it.
Mm-hmm.
I believe. So like I'm sure lots of that stuff has either been redeveloped or like phased out, but even Half-Life has benefited from exactly like the mentality and things that I'm talking about that previous people has done. And yet there is still not a single modern completely open source game. There needs to be fucking one. And if nobody else is going to do it, and I don't have to, like, I'm 30 now. I thought when I was 20, I was like, okay, eventually they'll open source Battlefield 2. Never fucking did. I was like, okay, I guess that. I'm 30 now. I'm not waiting anymore. It's like, I'm done. Like, if nobody's going to do it, we should do it. So, yeah.
So you're making it. Okay, so on the 30th, you guys are releasing the single player demo on Steam, is how people are going to get it.
Yep.
People can they can make mods and test them in their single player.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the mod kit's free, the game's free, or the demo's free.
I mean, it's basically the game, but yes.
The game without the multiplayer browser.
It's not the multiplayer browser, yeah. It's just that it's a demo only in the fact that we're releasing it through the Steam system that calls it a demo. But it's basically the game, just minus the server browser.
And
but yeah.
Is it going to be a one-time release, or are you going to keep updating that demo along?
We will keep updating that demo. Not
necessarily one.
Yeah, we've kind of found out that updating the game a lot, like. There was a while there we had the multiplayer playtest like updating every 4 hours.
I remember that because
we noticed like nobody would ever join in again because it's like, oh fuck, I have to download this other update. So we'll probably update it, I don't know, monthly maybe,
yeah. That makes
something
sense.
like that. To be decided. Again, eventually over time, I would like to get to a point if we ever make it platform agnostic. We were going to hopefully have either like a decentralized updater or like maybe updating is entirely optional.
Mm-hmm.
And you can download whatever milestone version you want and or need for whatever mod you're playing. Or maybe you could connect to like a completely different patch server and like play a completely different version of the game that has nothing to do with us at all.
People don't remember before auto updaters when you had mods that if you want to, oh, hey, let's play this mod. Okay, I got to go make sure that I download the right patch for that mod versus the modern one. Yeah.
Going back to Doom, I think Doom and like the iWAD system is kind of similar to what we want to do eventually. Like, imagine if we could get to a point where OWAD, yeah, no, hey, coining stuff right now. But imagine if we could get to a point where it's like, there's no one single place to access Operation Harsh Doorstop. It's not like you download it through us. You could download it through anywhere. Maybe there's a billion different launchers out there made by a billion different people. And then you could potentially have it where you just swap out. There will be the Operation Harsh Doorstop plugin that comes with all of the specifically Operation Harsh Doorstop content. So like the Cold War shit, the Invictus stuff, like all that stuff. But if you swap that out with somebody else's, it could become a completely different game.
My Little Pony Dreamland Adventure.
My Little fucking Pony Dreamland. And you download the MLP.U plugin and you install, and there could even be an MLP OHD like launcher.
Yeah,
And it's got, they got
.exe.
their own launcher.
Yeah, exactly.
And they got their own fucking like
And
base
they've got mods. They've
game
got
and
mods for their
everything.
mods.
They got mods. They got mods for dude. And then it just gets fucking crazy, bro. You fucking say. Oh, I'm sorry. But yeah, that's now you're getting it. Like if we pull this off, I know we're memeing hard right now, but that's
There will be a brony
that's
game.
the
Let's
vision.
not
There will
lie.
be a
There will be a
fucking
brony.
game.
Yeah.
There will be, and there should be. There should be.
It's just not going to be hosted officially on Operation Harsh Door.
It just won't officially be.
If you happen to make, if something gets made,
yeah. If you look, this is why I really want to create like the decentralized system, because when somebody makes an MLP mod, they upload it to the OHD Steam Workshop, I will ban it. But they're going to be able to get around that through the decentralized net. I'm kidding. I won't actually ban the
whatever
MLP
they want to host
mod,
on a
but
different place that you don't run.
they can.
Yeah.
Yes.
Operation Harsh Pony Stop. I love it.
Harsh. Yeah. So that's the point. We want to build this as something long term that can facilitate a whole world. I want to build a whole ecosystem. I want to get to a point where people are building businesses off of this in the same way that people have built businesses off of FiveM. Like you want to set up your own server. We want to eventually get to a point where we can have like a really advanced server browser where, it's not just a list of servers and it's kind of almost like a Steam discovery queue of servers. Like we want to even kind of change how people view servers, so that way you can discover entirely new experiences, or that way if you boot into the game and you're super into Milsim, you're not going to just see a whole bunch of My Little Pony servers like there. You're going to see like, hey, we know you're into Milsim, so here's all the Milsim servers and stuff. You can check those out, and that way we can kind of create a really nice, clean, but well organized, decentralized community that I think will be very appropriate for a decentralized game. Because I want to make it so everybody can get what they want.
Just like FiveM, right?
But just like FiveM. I think FiveM could go even, because they still have just like a normal server browser. Like, goddamn, that server. Like, what is
huge,
with people in the fucking server browser?
DayZ was another one like that too, where you're like, it's
ripe
so
for
possible.
innovation. Ripe for innovation. But yeah, I mean, imagine if FiveM had that, where it's like you boot in and it's like, hey, here's like the zombie servers category. Here's like the whatever. Maybe even the categories could be like emergent, and it's like once there's enough tags for a certain, like Reddit. Like you basically make a server browser that's like Reddit, and then eventually, yeah. You understand.
Machine learning. That's what you need to use. That's the buzzword. Machine learning.
Machine learning.
Algorithmic machine learning.
Although that is also kind of scary, because then machine learning like gathers all your data and fucking.
Well, obviously
like,
that's the point right now.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
That's
and
why
then
they do it.
We sell your data, and that's how we know. Never.
That's not how Operation Harsh Door Stop's gonna work. So,
although Steam probably sells your data, unfortunately.
So I got a couple questions that came in through the chat.
Yeah. Hit me.
There's a lot of the questions are about sort of what the limits of OHD core and OHD writ large. So I'm gonna toss out a couple ideas. I want you to say yes or no if you think that you can make this. We already said yes to My Little Pony.
Yeah.
Role play.
Of course.
I'm just
that's
asking.
One of the basic ones. Yeah.
Surf maps.
Yes, I used to play Surf all the time.
Dude, I do.
Yes, Surf, bro. I actually do not like. The only reason I even installed Counter-Strike at all was to play Surf.
Yeah.
I have more hours. I have exponentially more hours in Surf than I have in the base Counter-Strike game, like by far. Yeah.
Okay. A single player experience. What? Like a no kidding narrative game. Like a narrative game.
We're actually planning on supporting that. We're planning on doing that ourselves. So we're actually going to start. One of the things we want to do is we want to make like a campaign mode, which is kind of like, imagine you play. We could make it compatible with multiplayer as well, but imagine it's like you you win a map, and then instead of just having like a default map voting screen, it's like a campaign map, and it's like, hey, you've got like different cities that you have to take, and each city is a map, and then in order to attack city X, you have to take city Y or whatever.
Battlefield 1942 had a thing like that.
Right? Did they?
Yeah. Well, it was you went through a campaign, and if you lost, you had to go back to the previous. You had to go back to the previous map.
I don't know.
And fight it again. Yeah.
But yeah, stuff like that. But we want to make it more narrative driven. In fact, I would say imagine kind of having like a campaign map combined with like like the Battlefield 1 operations mode where it's
Mhm.
got like the big intro and everything. Imagine having something like Battlefield Bad Company, like kind of like a campaign like that, but with like a kind of like a I don't want to say decentralized again because I keep saying that, but like a not what's the word for something where it's not linear,
Non-linear.
like open, I
Literally
guess.
non-linear. It's non-linear. That's the word.
Fucking touche, brother. Non-linear. Yeah, but like basic imagine like a non-linear Bad Company 2 campaign where it's like,
Okay.
each mission it's got like that narrative element to it and you can play it in either PvP or co-op or whatever. But the outcome is like, if you lose or if you win, there's like a
The stakes,
narrative
yeah.
arc. Yeah, it's like that'd be cool.
Uh,
So we're planning on doing something like that as a starter. But yeah, that's
that
totally
Vietnam game, Rising Storm 2, has something like that
right.
too.
The big inspiration. Yeah,
Yeah.
we would want to do something similar to that. Maybe with more like of the narrativeness, because that's
Yeah.
just
Yeah,
it's
that's
kind of
just
just
yeah.
it's like a glorified map vote screen. We would
Yeah,
want to
yeah.
go a little bit further than that, but yeah, that's a good example though.
Okay.
That has
What
left.
about a role-playing game?
You just asked me that.
No, sorry. Not a role-play server like 5M, but like a
Oh,
fancy role-playing game. Yeah,
like
yeah.
fantasy and
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah, so we're actually already working to implement third-person cameras.
Mm.
So that way, but we'll have it so I mean, because obviously third-person cameras are cancer for tactical servers.
Yeah.
So it'll be like a server-side setting. But we're going to create support for you to have third-person game modes. And then, I mean, after that, it's in fact actually to go further with that. Now, obviously, Operation Harsh Doorstop. We're not interested in building like a medieval
Hmm.
game mode. But what we were thinking about doing is we do have the World War One stuff, and we're
Yep.
big fans of like the Battlefield One like melee system. So we were like, that might not be a bad idea to create like a really sick melee system for our World War One content that could also easily be used by modders to create like knights and medieval shit.
Hmm.
Like we could make it kind of for the purpose of supporting that stuff, but for the World War One slash tactical shooter stuff, but have it be fully supported. So yes.
That sounds pretty sick. As you were talking
Yeah,
about that, I'm
dude,
like,
the
oh, that's
Battlefield 1 shit was dope. And I know World War 1 is like our weakest thing right now, but like eventually if we implement like dude, if we had an Operation Harsh Doorstop where it's like, yeah, you've got bolt action rifles, but you're only using them 10% of the time and the other 90% you're
yeah.
just like beating the shit out of people with like whatever the fuck you find. Like that's sick. That's why I'm saving the World War 1 stuff for later cuz if we get the budget to do that, like
And
I'm
that's
I'm,
and
I'm
each
about
of those
that.
systems that you add in is kind of added in modularly, right? It's like
Yes.
or so it's like you can have somebody working on a melee system and it's not going to screw up or otherwise be like crazy integrated with the rest of the stuff, so people can keep bolting on systems if they want to the
Yes,
game.
that is the science behind all of this is balancing how much we do that because we have to build something that's like modular in that way or it shatters. There's a lot of again, so you're just getting into what is the big that's another big part of my job because a lot of people are like, it's funny. I'd rather because obviously I have my YouTube channel, so there's a lot of people that like know who I am, but they don't really know that much about what I do. But it's easy to have opinions about me because you see my face all the time. So
Mhm.
there are people who are like, "Oh, Blue Drake, he doesn't do anything. He's just the director of the game." It's not necessarily true. I do a lot of other stuff that isn't just directing. But motherfucker, if directing was the only job I have, let me tell you that is a full-time fucking thing. Because a big part of this is the decision-making process of like how modular do we make this? In what way do we make this modular? If we make this too modular or if we have too many options, like imagine if we get to this point where it's like you don't want to, be a modder and then click a drop down box on like how to add a weapon and then have like 50 billion
Yeah.
fucking things and it's like then nobody would mod the goddamn game. So it's like how many options do we make? How modular? Not that you couldn't mod your own mod interface and add in additional options and stuff like that. But like, how modifiable should the vanilla base shit be?
Hmm.
That's a big discussion we have to constantly be talking with the rest of the team, creating design documents and pulling all of this different stuff. So and somebody ultimately me has to pull the trigger on those decisions and take responsibility when everybody bitches about things that like, why isn't this way? And it's like, well, Blue Drake
said it was
said,
going to be this way.
because we were all talking about whether we should do it one way or the
Blue
other.
Drake's a tyrant, and he said
Blue Drake had to be the fucking tiebreaker, his fucking dick. But yeah, so that's a big question. You know, like there is no right answer to that stuff. Like, how modular should we make everything? Hopefully it'll all be in like that sweet spot of just modular enough where it's fun, but not overly modular where it's a goddamn chore to make content for the game. And then of course, if you ever want to make it more modular and you like it being a chore, well, then you could make a mod for your mod that turns it into a chore. So, and that's
yeah, and that
yeah.
So with that concept of like how you're talking about like having a mod that relies upon like that, I think that's something that Arma does really well, in that like people will make a add-on or a mod or whatever you want to call it for that, right? And then other people might build onto that mod and make another mod that has it as a dependency because they already like, I was looking at World War I mods, and there's a World War I mod that's really good, but you have to download this huge World War II mod because it uses some of the same systems, right? And I think that like that concept of, okay, yeah, I want to make a modern tactical game. Well, I'll take OHD stuff because they got some modern tactical stuff. But these guys over here, they've got the faction I want, and then maybe you assemble some mods, and then you create your mod over the top of them. Like, here's the overall, what I want to make.
In the actual current version of the game, you can swap out the factions for any map. Mm-hmm. So in World War I, you could swap out, like, you can play that with, private military company. Or if somebody were to create a mod for, like, like, let's say somebody... we're still fleshing out the functionality of this stuff for better supporting, like, because one of the things that we're working on right now is having a system that will actually scan the maps that are in the game and then dynamically listing them in the map browser. So that way you don't have to go in a console and like manually load a map. One of the things that I thought would be really cool eventually, this is not confirmed, but this is something that we could do in the future, is we could actually have it so you could edit the factions in the game.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, Ravenfield does this. So it's like, hey, if you want to, you could manually go in and let's say you have a whole bunch of mods and they all use different like weapons and stuff. You could potentially be like, well, I want the rifleman to be a fucking Warhammer 40k dude, and I want the machine gunner to be like fucking Star Wars, but I want him to have like a bolt action Mosin. Like, we could potentially make it modular enough in game, not even requiring the SDK, where you could do that.
It's not modular, it's configurable.
It's configurable. You could even maybe save new factions, like save new custom factions that utilize all of that custom content, like all possible. Hold on, I broke my goddamn thing.
When you jumped up and were jumping around?
I know, I was sitting there
as one does. Okay, another one that I saw asked a few times. We've talked about Arma a lot.
Arma's a big inspiration for
OHD,
all of us, everybody.
Will OHD be able to, like, what sort of scope for OHD maps are we looking at? I don't expect that we're... So you think that you'll be able to do something like a 10 kilometer by 10 kilometer like they do with Arma?
There's no reason. So look, all right, here's the objective, all right? I'm going to be real with you about this, bro. Be real with you. How do I put this back together? How did I even break this?
I don't even know what you broke. You haven't said what it is.
It's like I'm not using my nail clipper, but I'm just.
I was wondering if you were clipping your nails under.
I'm not actually clipping my nails. I'm just fiddling because I needed something to fiddle, and the nail clipper just like disintegrated in my hand somehow. I was like really confused. I'm now sitting here and marveling at like the mechanisms of how this is put together, and I'm like, oh, that's deceptively. I didn't realize
this is a very modular nail clipper.
It's a very modular nail clipper. I didn't realize it could fall apart and be put back together in that way. Very interesting. What were we talking about?
Blue Drake liked nail clippers, but he didn't like exactly how they were, so he decided to build his own nail clipper.
Open source nail clipper. And it's going to be the best. We're going to create a decentralized productivity network to build the ultimate nail clipper and undermine all the AAA nail clippers. We're going to fuck Walgreens super hard. They're going to be like, where did all our nail clipper sales go? I don't fucking know.
Okay, so you wanted to say something before the nail clippers about
I don't remember now.
About the size of your maps.
Infinite.
So
I'm not even half joking. So look, man, No Man's Sky. Mm-hmm. Procedurally generated planets and like universes and shit used to be something that was very difficult, like nay impossible to achieve. It is becoming less and less difficult. Now, I am not saying that like on release we're going to have like infinite planets that are going to be, playable. What I am saying though is that if you wanted to make a mod that gave you infinite planet, you probably actually could. Now, for gameplay, like vanilla purposes, the maps that we'll probably have it be in the release version of the game will probably be about the size of Squad. Now, by the time we release this game, it could be. I don't know. I don't know when we're going to be able to release this game. I've released like speculative roadmaps in the past, but it just depends. It could be a year. It could be longer. I don't know. But however long it takes, our objective on launch is to have a bunch of base maps that are about the same size as Squads. Now, the reason they will be the size of Squads is not because that is the biggest map that we are technically capable of creating. It'll be the size of Squads because that's roughly what people will have expected.
And that's the game that you're making, really.
And that's the game that we're making. But as I have even shown on my own channel with Unreal Engine 4, there is a significant amount of examples of things that you could even create utilizing a modding SDK that are natively supported. Well, I don't want to say natively supported, that you could absolutely put into Unreal Engine 4 that support like procedurally generated worlds. And as soon as you step into procedurally generated territory, asking the question of scale, it doesn't even make sense. It's like, well, how big is the procedurally generated world going to be? And it's like, it's procedurally generated, motherfucker. Like,
forever, infinite.
You don't know what that fucking means?
How many numbers are there?
Yeah, like how many fucking numbers are there in the world? Like forever. Even No Man's Sky, it's like we got a whole galaxy. It's like, bitch, you could have made a whole fucking universe. It wouldn't have made any difference. It's procedural. Like nothing exists. Like you could fucking. So, anyways, that's kind of the interesting aspect of this as well. I think by the time that we will have, I know a lot of people are probably going to be like, oh, Blue Drake, he's like, I don't know, like what, hyping people up too much about like technology.
They've been predicting your failure for a while now.
Yeah, good, do it. Keep predicting, dick. But anyways, the thing is that with the procedurally generated stuff, I am really interested to see what could potentially happen with procedurally generated environments after we release the game, because I have a feeling that the technology will be significantly further along than it is now. Because even now, procedurally generated terrain and procedurally generated environments is getting pretty commonplace. Like the technology for that, the algorithms for that, like even the companies that like used to have, because back in the day when procedurally generated environments first, came onto the scene, it was only by a handful of studios. Naturally, like we said before, if you have somebody like EA, the first thing they're going to do whenever there's groundbreaking technology is throw it in a hard drive and bury it 50 miles down to the fucking, But now we're at a point where there's been a lot of people that have cracked procedural generation and they've open sourced all that shit. So there's a lot now. That's why there's been a big explosion, especially in indie games where procedural generation is like a big aspect of the gameplay loop. Now, that's now. Years from now, that could be way further along. And it might get to a point where by the time that we release like Operation Harsh Doorstop, implementing some form of like procedurally generated environments that either go on for like infinitely or just like an absurd amount of it could be relatively, I'm not going to say anything's easy, but compared to how difficult it would maybe be now, by the time we release, it could be significantly less difficult. Dare I say trivial. And I think the bigger question isn't can we create big environments? It's can you make a gameplay loop that's fun, that have infinite? Because that's the point. One of the reasons we're going to create squad-based levels when we release the game is because we know how to make that fun. Right? Like Squad did it.
There's a gameplay loop that already exists.
Like there's a gameplay loop for that. Yeah. We don't have to sit here. And
even Battlefield's kind of the same size. Like
exactly. It's like that's what we like. If we're gonna do this, if we're making this game from the ground up, completely outside of the system, so that way we can do it legally and all that stuff. Our objective isn't gonna be to do all of that work and then add additional work on top of that to like find some new, completely different, untapped gameplay
that's
loop
the modder's
nobody
job.
Understands. Yeah. Like everybody else can figure that out. Our objective is to give you fucking Battlefield that you can modify and distribute without getting sued by EA. That's our objective. Like once we make that, and we're not to say that we're not interested in going beyond that, because once we get to that point, I'm sure our own team, we've already had all sorts of ideas. It's like, dude, if we had our own game, we could make like this gameplay thing or this, like we could do all this stuff. That would be super cool. But that's not 1.0. And I have to remind everybody of this all the time because everybody, their imagination starts running off and they're like, oh, we
Yeah.
could do this different. We could do it. And it's like, that's when you get into feature creep mode. And it's like, dude, we don't have the resources to do that. We don't have we have the resources to remake Battlefield and make it good. That's what people know works. That's what people need. People need a free version of that on the market. You know, that's what we want to do. And then from that, all sorts of other shit could happen. Who knows? We'll even be involved with that. But that's the point. So V1 of OHD, it's going to be a very reined in standard Battlefield whatever experience. Maybe we'll sprinkle in some like interesting game modes in there or something, but we're not going to have like a fucking galaxy with like aliens and shit that you can.
Yeah.
But there's no reason to say that isn't possible. And I want to go one step further because people are going to be like, well, you're just going to say anything's possible. Not only do I think that would be possible, I would say it would be pretty easy.
Pretty likely, really.
Yeah, like again, nothing's easy. But when I say easy, I mean like you could accomplish that with a handful of talented programmers.
Yeah, all they have to do really is make models
versus
and,
like
you know, some animations.
Billions of dollars and a whole studio's worth of people to do it. Like you could do that with a relatively small team, but you'd have to figure out a good gameplay loop or nobody's gonna fucking, because it doesn't matter how many goddamn planets you have if it's not fun. I can think off the top of my head some good gameplay mechanisms that might be attractive, but I couldn't guarantee that that's going to be amazing, and that's not what I'm working on right now anyways. But yeah, but just to make sure that people understand, in fact, there is this one game I'll show you later. I'll just take my word for it. There's this new game that's coming out. I forgot the name of it. I could look it up, but it would take me a little while. But it's basically Homeworld with planets.
Okay.
I loved Homeworld, but it's like and it has like real spherical planets. So like, it's kind of like what else? Supreme Commander had that, right? Where they had But Supreme Commander is also Supreme Commander, so it's a little bit more like arcade kind of goofy. But this was like kind of like realistic, like Homeworld style physics, but you actually have to like take a carrier and like there's multiple planets and you fly over to the planet and you like land ships on it. I totally think that's like a squad style game, even with a small amount of players, like 100 players with an entire planet. I guarantee you there is a game mode for that would be sick as fuck.
Mm-hmm.
Now I know there's going to be some people that are going to be like, oh, but like how is 100 players going to be playable on an entire planet? You know, because then, you know, you've got like 1 billion kilometers. Nobody's ever going to see each other. And it's like, dude, nobody would even see each other on a 4x4 kilometer map if AAS wasn't involved.
Yeah.
Because the whole point of advanced
There's objectives. There's
objectives
things
to like
that draw
make
you to
people go somewhere. Like if everybody was if you had 100 people running around on a fucking 4x4 kilometer map, they'd never fucking see each other. Have you played DayZ? Like it's like spend like an hour before you see a goddamn person. So with a planetary game mode, and this is why I think this could be pretty doable, because procedural generation isn't terribly difficult. What is difficult is having a large number of players. So I think it would actually be significantly easier to have like a 100 player server, but then like on a procedurally generated world utilizing probably some pre-existing technology that's already built with Unreal Engine 4. And then you could have a game mode where there's still just a single objective or something somewhere on that planet, and your ability to get there is like easy. So it's
like planet side almost.
Yeah, right. So like imagine, and I have some scenarios in mind. If you wanted to just keep it modern level, just a fucking aircraft carrier, dude. Like if you look at Gulf of Oman, obviously with Battlefield 2, they take those aircraft carriers and they stick them like right on the beach. Aircraft carrier would never be that fucking close to a map. Like those F-35s can go like Mach 3 or something stupid. Like they could fly across my entire state in like 5 minutes. You know, so it would be relatively easy to have like a massive map and then still have pretty standard squad style gameplay where it's like, okay, all the infantry spawn in and they've got, but then all of the pilots and the Blackhawk people or whatever, they spawn in at an actual carrier. Like, like 20 clicks south or something like that. That would be a great game mode that I think would work out really well. Or if you wanted to do like futuristic stuff, you could potentially do it where it's like, you've got a ship in goddamn space, and then, you've got some fucking orbital drop pods that come in and whatever. And, again, people are going to be like, wouldn't that take forever? And it's like, dude, have you seen a SpaceX launch? Like, those things go from ground to orbit and back in like a fucking,
it's like 10 minutes.
Like 10 minutes, bro.
Yeah.
Like shit. Like that's totally possible. So lots of opportunities. I do think, dude, I know some people are going to say that I'm crazy for saying this. Mark my words. I think at some point, may not even be in OHD, I think there will be a planetary scale game with like squad-like mechanics of some sort that comes out hopefully in the next couple of years, and I think it'll be dope as shit. And I think it doesn't necessarily need to support more than like a normal amount of players to be fun and still have an entire planetary scale environment.
I mean, I think we're brushing on already. Look at Foxhole. Look at what Foxhole does, right?
Right.
That's a
Foxhole.
huge area,
There's
right?
got to be another one. There's got to be another game. Like what are?
I mean, I think PlanetSide 2 is a good example. It's another huge area, right?
Is planetary scale games. What are games that have entire planets?
Can you do zombie mode? Can somebody make a zombie mode in your game?
Already exists. There's a mod for it on Yeah, somebody literally already made Call of Duty Zombies for OHD.
Nice.
It's on OHD.com.
What about oh yeah, World War II Online? That's not planet scale, but that's pretty big. World War II Online is pretty big. What about what about a survival game like a Escape from Tarkov style game?
Yeah. In fact, we were planning on doing some native stuff to support like raids and stuff, because there's some things that I'm gonna be like, yes, you can mod that in, but there's some things where it's like, oh, we know people are gonna want that enough that we're actually gonna try and develop some of those things,
like an inventory system or something like that.
Yeah, we actually would want it. We are planning at some point to implement an inventory backend. We were gonna have a system where, imagine if you still had kits like Squad, but you could customize it with a full inventory. So you still have 10 inventory slots where you can like scroll up and down. Imagine Stalker. You know how Stalker, it's like you've got the primary and the secondary, and then you've got like, 10 I don't know, 8 rows of shit, and you still select them all with the number keys. We were thinking of something like that. It's like, what would be an inventory system that would still be completely compatible with Squad, with like the Battlefield kit system? We were thinking of doing something like that, and then if you wanted to, you could make a mod that would expand or reconfigure that inventory system to be, I don't know, identical to Escape from Tarkov or whatever the hell other game
sort of
you're
loot
trying to replicate.
system or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, something that we would want to do. Again, we have that's kind of a bigger ticket item, so we'd have to either finish a bunch of the features that we're working on right now, or get enough money where we could hire another programmer before and find another programmer who's good. We've had a lot of really good, competent programmers that have come through. We had the lead developer of Squad that worked for us for 6 months, but we didn't have enough money to. He worked for us at like half his normal rate, and then which was
eventually
basically
he had to pay the bills.
volunteer work. Eventually, he had to pay the bills. That's what I'm saying. Like, if we had the budget, just because of who I am and because of the connections that we have, or I mean, even like Karma knows a lot of these people as well. Like, it's not like some of these developers that work on these games are like, like ghosts, and you have to, like,
they don't live online anywhere. They never play video games with anyone.
It's like, we know loads of these people.
We know all these people. Yeah.
If we have the money,
Gooms knows them all.
I can just go up and be like, "Yo, want a fucking job?" And they'll be like, "Yeah, X AAA studio just laid me off, and I'm on the market anyways." Like, they'll happily work for us. So that's the cool thing. Like, as we continue to get a bigger budget, we have access to all of this, in addition to hopefully building like these decentralized systems. So both like the community and also big hitter specialized developers can be helping to develop this game simultaneously at any given time. So we do have access to some of those people.
So what you're saying is you need more support, and I think this
give me more money.
This is a good spot for us to round it off, because we went way over the time that I had intended. But I mean, there's so much awesome information here. There's so much more. There's so much more that you and the team want to accomplish, and I think getting to sit on the back. Yeah.
We have to. There's a lot we want to accomplish, but we have to keep our eyes on the goal,
on the release.
It's like or just on the next objective. Like, because we can sit here and get all excited about like the long term, but
planetary scale combat Escape from Tarkov.
Exactly. But we still have the work that we need to be doing right now, and there's still features. Like the next thing that, like, implementing Steam Workshop. That's going to be a bitch.
Mhm.
Getting the vehicles the rest of the way in. We've got like the vehicles like 70% developed. We could have finished them by now, but we've got other things like everybody wants vaulting, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well shit. I guess we should probably do the vaulting before the so many we got to eat our vegetables. And we're sitting here eating our fucking vegetables, and hopefully at some point we're going to be able to do some really cool big stuff, but it's going to take time. It's going to take work, and it's going to take, resources. And hopefully as we continue to scale, we can get there faster, but we still got to walk that distance.
Okay, so if people want to support the project, I know you said it's free, and there's going to be a demo coming out on the
Right now, it's all
30th of March.
Patreon.
So
Yeah.
Patreon. So where on
Yeah.
Patreon?
Patreon/Drakeling Labs. And basically the way it works, because again, people still get weird about this, and they're like, yeah, but I shouldn't have to pay anything at all. And it's like, look, we still have a business. This game is not going to be made for free. In order for us to build this, we have to raise resources somehow. The game might be free when it releases, but it's definitely not going to be made for by having no money. So our business model, and this was one of the reasons that I felt pretty confident that we could do this, is because I personally know a whole bunch of people on Twitch that make 30 times the amount of money that we make, like literally millions of dollars a year. We could fund an entire development team that would easily compete with any any of the trending tactical shooters for some of the money that some of these streamers make. So our business model is almost identical to like a Twitch streamer.
Mm-hmm.
You can on March 30th, you can download the game for free, or you can pay us on Patreon and get some passive perks. For a while, it's going to be early access to like the multiplayer playtests and stuff like that, because like I said, we don't feel confident releasing the multiplayer version of the game right now because we don't want it to get swarmed with like cheaters and exploiters and again, the game's just not ready. But
you only get to release it once. You only get to do that
release
release
it once. So if you want to support on Patreon, you can get early access to that and a whole bunch of other things. Even after we release the game, there's going to be a whole bunch of ways similar to Twitch where you can just support on Patreon and continue getting extra passive perks, usually early access to updates. For instance, like the expansions, like all of the World War II stuff. We're going to develop that in-house, and we're going to say, hey, there's going to be like a 6-month period where our backers on Patreon get access to like, the new Normandy maps that we're still developing and stuff like that. And then when they're done, we'll release them for free. So there's still going to be ways that we're going to try to incentivize people to support the project and to give the people who are supporting the project value. And then when the entire game releases, we just put it out there and everybody gets to access it. And hopefully through supporting us voluntarily on Patreon, we will have ultimately built a game that is both legally and financially free. And that's the ultimate objective.
Okay, cool. So if you guys are listening afterwards, you're watching the VOD, or even anyone out there in chat land, it's patreon.com/Drakeling Labs to check out for OHD to support it. The demo is coming out. It's not a beta. It's not an alpha. It's a demo, single player demo that you can mod, and you can make your own mods right now. The demo itself is going to release on the 30th, so you can play those mods. If you would like to find more information, download the SDK, which is basically just Unreal Engine 4. You can go to operationharshdoorstop.com and check that out. Obviously, you can go check out Blue Drake on YouTube. I think it's youtube.com/BlueDrake42, right?
Yeah, sure.
To check out his content. He's got a lot of great videos talking about not just what the game is, but what he, sort of
the Operation Harsh
continuation
Doorstop YouTube channel is really more of a focus as well now. So if you want to
there you go.
if you want to go somewhere on YouTube to learn more about OHD, we're really focusing on building up the OHD YouTube channel. So because obviously I talk about all sorts of stuff on my channel, not exclusively OHD. I wanted to finally have a place where I could exclusively talk about OHD, and that is now the OHD YouTube channel, which is pretty active. So that's also a good place to go for people who want to go to YouTube and follow that. You can follow me, but it's just I'm going to be talking about.
You should follow him anyway.
Well,
sure. I really appreciate you coming on the podcast and talking to me. It's I know your time's valuable, so I really appreciate it. It's kind of fun talking to you. I love talking about this stuff.
It's not more valuable than hanging out with you, dude.
No, well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. But no, I know you're a busy guy, so it's very nice for you to come and talk about the game, the project, but also just like the mentality, the thought behind it, and I think that there's a lot of value that people don't necessarily see. They just see it's a game, and you're like, no, I'm literally trying to change the world by making this game. and I gotta explain it to you because you don't see the back end. But
I mean, whether the world changes because we make this game is superfluous. The ultimate objective is to make the game. We do think that we're making it in certain ways that I think are really powerful and have a lot of potential beyond this. But for now, the objective is to use those powerful tools and those powerful ideas to make this game. And I think we all want this to exist as well. So it's a worthy first project, I think, to build using this model. So
well, I'll say I've had the ability to play it on the back end here and there, and every time I play it, it's come farther and farther. It's a fun game now, and I can't even imagine like once the modding scene really starts catching on.
Right.
I'm gonna have endless things that I can make content on. I know you're gonna do the same thing.
Exactly.
That's
a big aspect.
I plan on extensively covering this, as much as I can with releases and things like that. So, yeah, thanks for coming. Thanks for being here. Thanks for making a game for people. Thanks for making videos for us. It's a lot of fun.
I try.
I
appreciate you appreciating me.
And with that, we're gonna end the podcast. Thanks for everyone who tuned in. Gooms, thanks for sitting in the chat, dropping some links for me. A lot of your modding team showed up, by the way, or a lot of your dev team showed up, by the way. Blue Drake, you got some.
I haven't even had the Twitch open.
Yeah, a bunch of your Pookies out there.
I'm sure they're all shitting on me.
Yeah, there's some
yeah,
trash talk going up for sure.
The Blue Drake, I bet he sucks.
He's terrible. Yeah. Anyway, go support OHD, go support Blue Drake, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks, guys, and I really appreciate it. Useless Fodder, out.